Test. Holy cow. Yeah, okay, cool.
What?
Rikai's going to be very happy. No.
So at some point, do we need to switch over so that we're broadcasting from Grand Forks? I shouldn't have started Satcom 2 yet, should I? I should have waited on that. No, I was a little ahead of the ball game there. So if you're watching on YouTube, I need to shut this shit down. Because we need to break our recording here, or I mean our broadcast here, and let you take over, right?
Yeah, and let me look at one thing too, because I got levels jumping on a channel I don't think they should be jumping on. Hold on,
you take a look at that. I'll use that time to prep the live stream. So if you're already watching live, of course, if you're like Eric or Dan in our Mumble right now, you don't have to go anywhere.
You'll get sneak peeks.
Ish. Look at all these. Look at all these folks we got in the join queue. Let me bring down. I'm going to bring down Bashful right now.
You've already seen the setup.
What's that? Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Okay.
Guys,
hello, Bashful.
I learned something new about our studio today.
Oh yeah, what's that?
We have these.
Mr. Kitty's here, dude.
We have these really great things from a company called Studio Hub that basically you run. It runs network cable and then it encodes the audio over the network cable.
That sounds neat.
Oh, it's great. But here's what's interesting that I didn't really know until now. Apparently, the podcast studio where all the video stuff is linked with the Ask Noah one down at the other end of the hall.
Sure, yeah, the audio studio. Cool. Sure, yeah. Yeah, that is nice, isn't it? All right, so are you ready for me to stop broadcast?
Yes, sir.
All right, so live stream in a few moments. Our broadcast will go dead, and then we will come back from Grand Forks, North Dakota, where we will... Oh, what'd you bring, Wes? You came bring... Mr. Payne.
Hey, Beard, can somebody send me a telegram when you guys are actually clear so I know when to click the button?
Yeah. Well, wait, we don't have to get off Mumble.
No, he's talking.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
you don't have to get off Mumble.
Yeah, so I'm going to break the stream here in a second. I'm just giving folks... hey, Wes, there's a yellow
you guys sound
refresher
really
in there if you want.
Good.
All right, so I'm going to... all right, so I'm going to kill the stream. I'm going to screw everybody's day up that's not in the Mumble room. And then it'll refresh in a moment, so...
You know what's great about the stream? It contains audio, so they heard all that.
I know, right? It is great, isn't it?
This technological stuff, dude, I tell you what. Just blows my mind sometimes. Okay, yeah. Okay, I'll be right back. I gotta exit the Mumble room for 1 second, then I'll be right back.
Have successfully connected as a host.
Easiest way, I think.
Because you guys used Let's Encrypt, which is only good for
3 months.
90 days.
But here's my question. I thought we had, and maybe I'm wrong because I don't talk to these guys that often, but I thought we had a thing set up where it automatically regenerated the certificate every 30 days.
Yeah, it should, but it didn't.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's me. Hold on 1 second.
Are you taking a bath?
You know what it is? It's the yeah, what is I am JBGF. But here's what that is. Here's what that is. JB girlfriend is what you're hearing is the open phone line. Yeah, well, yeah, actually, so it's funny. So I had 3 telcos in here, and we fought about that because I said there's got to be a way to get a quieter phone line, and it just turns out that phone lines were just never meant to be quiet. The Mumblegate? That's a thing?
Jack.
Oh, hold on 1 second. I got to deal with something with the call screener. Hold on 1 second.
With the Discord room, in IRC, you used to do the mum label towards you, Chris. What are we using in Discord now? Okay, cool. Do we ad tag you? Also, Simon's pinging to get pulled into the room.
Sure.
Hello. I talked about that. So I would be ready to help you with the join queue.
Okay, there we go. So my wife is call screening, so that's cool. Not yet. But she was because here's the thing, I didn't really think about it, and she's like, hey, if you're doing a show, do you want me to call screen? And I'm like, yes, actually. I don't know why I didn't think of that, but yes. Right.
Sarah's awesome.
So are you guys recording your end yet? Okay. Little dance. We could do the sync up dance. I don't know. I think we're getting ready to... Let me think.
That's what that background noise is?
And you're not kidding either. That literally is what it is. So what were you saying? What was somebody saying there was like there's a gate or something like that I can use? Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, really? Here, let me think about it. Here. Yeah. Same as it would show up with Ask Noah. You know what? Here. You know what? I got an idea. Hold on one second.
When I speak, I get my own echo back. Are you guys getting that?
Is that better?
Yeah, there's a problem.
Is it just me or is it everyone?
Oh, really?
It's everyone.
Okay, cool. Thanks, guys. I just want to make sure I'm not going to screw up the show.
You almost have to go out of your way to screw up the show.
I'm talented.
Yes, I would.
That's what I was trying to say. And here's why that is anytime I talk, then the little auto adjuster on the phone line thing is going, oh, he's talking, I'll shut the caller up or whatever. So yeah, which probably actually plays into that a little bit too, because really, is it that loud?
It's pretty loud, man.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. I'm trying to think.
Is it ducking the audio for you, Noah?
Yeah, basically. Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I actually can fix this if you can wait about 2 minutes. Okay.
Oh, cool. I don't think so right now. Thanks. Yeah, when he messaged me, it was like, "Hey, this isn't going to be a nice interview." And I was like, uh-oh. Yeah, I definitely appreciated that. He gave me a heads up on, some stuff that he wanted to ask, and I think it went well. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks.
We're looking at using your stuff there, Dan.
Sorry, I don't know who's talking right now.
Sorry,
Okay.
Ubuntu Budgie.
Oh, cool.
The software center, like they're rebranded. I know. I've been looking at it as kind of a reference to do so.
So, with that, we've been working with them.
Okay, so now we all hear the distracting noise, right? Okay, and now we don't hear the distracting noise, right?
It's better.
Bingo.
Yeah, you remember that time? You remember that time when I ordered that mute pedal and then I lost it, and then I ordered another mute pedal and then I found the original one? Well, I found a new use for it.
There you go.
Nice. Crossed him, man.
Dun, dun, dun. Also, Kits is is looking to be brought into the room too. He pinged you in Discord.
Hold on, I might have to actually fix something with the chat thing too. I think it's showing something that shouldn't at the top. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I went to move into my studio, and then when I plugged my mic back in, it did its thing.
Hey, Beardsley, how do I tell Discord to not tell me that I have new messages, or do I just crop that around that?
Or you can mute the channel at the top in with the bell.
Uh-huh. Gotcha. Okay. Okay, 1 sec. Okay, 1 sec.
Yeah, that's true. I should have. I guess that's new though. We're still working it out with them and trying to figure out that kind of stuff. But I do think though that working with them will make it easier for other people to also use App Center and be able to rebrand easily. And
Where's the best spot to get in on that conversation? Because it's something that we're definitely interested in, Dan.
Well, I guess just go to the GitHub, and if you have any issues, open some issues up in there. But if you shoot me an email, then I could pull you guys into our Slack. I'll just let me know who's on your dev team, and we can pull them in.
Cool. It'll probably be myself to start. I'm kind of doing the investigation, and then we can go from there.
Okay, cool.
Awesome. Thanks.
There you go.
Done. Where are you, Dan?
I'm in Sacramento, in California.
Okay, you got a longer drive. I'm just in Vancouver.
It's a whole day.
Commitment.
Beautiful drive, though, right?
Bingo.
I've driven that way a couple times. It's beautiful, man.
I mean, that seems like the way to do it.
That's the way to do it, but that extends it like another 3 days.
Dude, you
My
gotta
wife
come
and
do
I.
the. Sorry.
My wife and I did that for our honeymoon. We drove down all the way down 101 from the Olympic Peninsula. We made it as far south as Arcata, California, before we had to go inland.
You gotta come do the Whistler Highway, man. Oh yeah.
Oh, it's gorgeous. You can only do it during the summer because one of those highways is closed currently. 20. 20 is closed. It's across the North Cascades. Yep. It's just that time of year.
Oh, Chris. I did think of something that if we can sneak it in there very stealthily. So Fedora 27 is out, right? Well, thanks to the hardworking guys in the Fedora community, you can actually run a Pantheon session in Fedora 27 these days.
Nice.
Where? I'm trying to get him to like put up a gist or something because right now you the Meta package isn't available. Yeah, I'll see if I can get something for you guys and I'll throw it in the little mumble room chat here. Or yeah, I can go to Discord. Let's do that. Where do we talk?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Yep. I was just going to ask you about that. I was like, this is content that we're wasting. Oh, you are. Oh, okay. Oh no! What? We're gonna do a bit. Oh, really? No, I didn't even know that. I didn't even know you. So you'd reloaded the soundboard machine, huh? What happened to? Oh, really? No kidding. I'm super impressed.
I like Caster Soundboard. I actually downloaded it to my machine, but I can't get the snap to work without crashing. I'm serious, yeah. I'm OpenSUSE Tumbleweed. I actually was trying to use the OBS to package it, and it wasn't working too well, but that's just because I don't know how to do RPMs that well. Yeah.
What? No.
Well, but you can use plugins.
Oh, the snap version. Okay. Yeah, that's not a part of a caster though.
But you can use Snap plugins to give access to your home directory if that's rather trivial to do. Yeah, exactly. There's various plugins, you know, like for example, if you do something like classic mode, you're basically just opening it wide up and hitting the file system. But there is a specific plugin where you can get access. No, it's got to be packaged that way. But who actually packaged the soundboard, do you know? Okay.
Hello.
If you
Whoa, speaking of the devil.
Yeah.
That was almost ventriloquism at its finest.
Hello, how are you?
Hey, Popey, so I'm correct in this if I believe so. There's basically a plugin for Snapcraft to allow access to a user's home directory, right?
Correct. There is a interface, yeah, called Home.
Right. So that's something that would need to be added to the soundboard Snap from the packager side, and then that way you could have access to your home directory, and then you shouldn't have any issues with that.
Yep.
That's already in there though. The home interface is already in the YAML. Hello.
I wonder if a Simlink would work.
No.
Oh.
Have we arrived late, or are we at the end or the beginning? Great. We came to the right place.
I was taking a selfie to upload to Twitter of me with a hammer because the chat room is making a joke about me having a hammer.
Oh,
so
hello,
now
Neil, whatever your name is.
Hi.
I haven't seen you for ages.
I go by Enfizzle now.
Enfizzle.
And I spied Dan as well. Hello, Dan.
Hey.
I loved your interview on Late Night Linux this week.
Thank you.
You stood your ground very well, despite a lot of poking from Joe.
Thanks.
Yep. It was perfect.
Thanks, guys. You guys are so nice.
Yeah.
You should do this for a living.
We do actually. So here's an idea I had for. Well, yeah, actually, never mind. That won't work either. What I was going to say, it's a bad idea, it won't work. But what I was going to say was, what if we did like 1, 2, 3, clap, whatever we do the monkey dance. We have to do it that way. We have to do it the way we always do it. Yeah. I was going to suggest something that wouldn't work. What am I doing? Hold on a second now. So am I going to cut a new file? Hey! Oh, no, we missed the opportunity for you to tell me to stop screwing around. Okay, but do we want to sync up first? Or no? Huh? No. Yeah, but isn't my voice on? Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I gotcha. Okay, all right.
You guys are funny. Yeah, with your special ninja keywords that nobody else understands. What machine is that? That sounds like a horrible spacebar.
Were you in restricted casting when you were doing that? Okay, all right. So you couldn't hear them because they were asking. They said, "What? That sounds like a terrible spacebar." And it didn't sound like typing. It did sound like you had like a disability, and you were like just mashing the keys, like. Wait. Is there a new microculture word here? Did you say comfies? Kumskis. Oh, okay. So it's not a new microculture word. Okay. Yep, I'm ready. Well, I can't yet. I haven't recorded. Oh, the first part that we did. Oh, do you want me to? Wait, so hold on a second, because I'm getting all confused up in here. Do you want me to make an Audacity recording in addition to the OBS recording? Okay. Okay. Speak to me the gospel. Okay. 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 So if you want my video track, would it not make sense to just leave the audio track that's already in sync with the video track? Right. Does not have you in it. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay, Beard, just
Somebody's
for you.
saying they can't hear Chris on the YouTube stream.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's true. Oh, God, I didn't think about that. But yeah, you know what? So not just on the YouTube stream, on the entire stream, because your side isn't going through the mixer. Yeah. This is the one thing I didn't even consider.
What you do is you set a mix bus and then do a separate output.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, sure. Okay. Hold on. It's coming in. Hold on. So, sorry, what was that? Yeah. We're breaking the stream again. Yes. Chris's fault, he says. Has to poop and fart. So, doesn't want to do it on air. Okay, so YouTube stream is going to go down. Regular stream is going to break. And we're going to come back on Chris's side after he has a safety wipe. Okay. All right. I'm just repeating what I'm being told. I'm just repeating what I'm being told.
But other than that, I'm all about it.
I am quickly understanding why Noah doesn't use any new apps. Why he never gets anything done.
I know, because, right? It's just a total, it just throws you for a loop.
Fedora,
right?
man.
Yeah. All right. So we are now streaming from the JB1 side, so you should be able to hear me again. Sorry about that. Do I need to stop and start the, I need to, don't I? I need to stop and start the, see, I am way too sober if I'm thinking of this stuff. I did not get properly drunk before the show. I was going to get a little tipsy since you're here to drive. I'm not kidding, but I failed to do it. Are you ready to hit the button?
I have my finger on the trigger.
So we're going to do 3, 2, 1, record.
Maybe that was an appropriate joke for today.
Hey, get your game face on.
Oh, sorry.
Hey. 3, 2, 1, record. Okay?
Okay.
And then give me a 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
4.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll go get myself a bev rye and go to the little ladies' room, and then I'm ready to start.
Bev rye.
Yeah. Well, so today we've got a huge frickin' mumble room. Woo! We got Wes in house. We got Beard in house. We got Noah. We got myself. This is gonna be and then it's Quantum Day and Fedora 27 Day.
Amazing.
How great is that? Could it? I mean, this is gonna be like the episode of episodes, I think. Hey Noah, have you looked? Did you look up like one message in our direct message chat recently? So the last time, that's good, dude. That's really good.
Here's the thing. I actually, at first, when I first saw it, I was like, "How immature! Why would he send that to me?" Right?
No, you sent it.
I know. But it just took me a second to remember that.
I love it. Let's see here. Now we were going to have. Was it Christian from Fedora join us today? Where's that at? Did he make it? Do you see him yet? Christian, are you here? Let's see. He was going to be in as CS. I don't see him yet. So, all right. So we still may have. Oh, there he is in the join queue up there. Yep. Boop, 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 boop. I'm going to bring him into staging. Would anybody mind checking his mic real quick and seeing if he's good to come on air? Because he's from the Fedora project and he's going to talk 27 with us. And while you guys do that, I got more updates.
Check, but I don't have privileges to move him in.
You know what? Oh, cool. Oh, well, let's just do it.
I do.
Okay, you do it, Noah. While I talk about this. You know what I've noticed is I get a shit ton of updates for 1604, way more than I expected. I'm getting updates almost every other day for 1604. I thought this would be. I thought I would be.
There's lots of good stuff, man.
I mean, so I'm getting a new NVIDIA driver, which I swear to God I just installed, a new version of Chrome, a new version of Wine, a new version of X2Go, and then a whole bunch of base packages are coming down. And then on top of that, a new version of Flash and FFmpeg for Chrome. It's like it's almost every few days there's new stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in there.
I did not expect that. I really did not. I thought I would get like every couple of weeks. I thought I'd get an update.
I suppose it's still in its prime.
Yeah. Oh, I have a really basic bitch Ubuntu question that I'm hoping that maybe Popey or Wimpy could answer for me. So
can you guys hear me?
Yes. Hello, Christian. Thank you for joining us.
Hi. Okay, good. It works.
We're just setting up right now. I was just going to get a question answer really quick before we start. So I have got a really old original install of 1604, and when I do a dist upgrade, it's got like a whole bunch of packages it wants to upgrade. Is that going to upgrade to 1710, or is that just...
No, dist so upgrade means upgrade the packages that I already have on my system.
Right.
Dist upgrade means upgrade the packages I have on my system and pull in any other additional new packages that I didn't already have to fulfill those dependencies. It doesn't mean release upgrade to the next release.
Okay, so I need to do that then. Okay, good. Good to know. I wasn't sure, and I thought that was the case, but I thought I'd ask. Christian,
it's a common question.
Thank you for joining us, Christian. We have a section carved out a little bit later in the show because we want to give it more time about for Fedora 27, and we also have a story that you know what we'll do right now is. Why don't we just ask? We're going to talk a little bit about ARM server support for Red Hat Enterprise. Are you comfortable talking about that at all in any capacity at all?
Just as a normal layman who has no idea what the setup is.
Well, feel free to jump in on any topic as part of our Mumble Room because everyone here is invited to chime in. This week we're doing something a little different. Mr. Noah there will be JBGF in the Mumble Room here. We'll be running the show just to make it fun. But we're all here. We're all here to chat, and we all have, well, almost all of us. I guess we all have Fedora 27 in front of us right now here in the studio. So, yeah, we'll have a lot to talk about. All right, well, I'll be right back. I'll go take care of business, drink this beer skis, and then we'll start.
So it's kind of embarrassing. I'm the only one that doesn't have Fedora 27 in front, and I am, you know.
Yeah, we're really putting you to shame.
I know. That's kind of lame, I think.
Even I'm using Fedora.
Here's a thought. If there's anyone out there that's listening and you're like, I've always wanted to participate in Linux Unplugged, but I don't have Mumble installed, or I can't install Mumble, or don't want to install Mumble, or have a philosophical objection to Mumble, you can call us on the phone this hour, 1-855-450-6624. We've got a toll-free one. It doesn't cost you a thing for the call. And if you're abroad, you can use Skype because it's a toll-free number. And then we can take your calls when we start the episode, which is kind of cool.
I use Skype if I'm not abroad.
Yeah,
what if I'm a gentleman?
For sure. Yeah, you could. I mean, it doesn't cost anything. But the people that are here in the U.S., it's like if you have a cell phone, it's probably more convenient to just call the toll-free number, which also doesn't cost you anything, right?
You might want to say it again, but slower.
1-855-450.
Oh yeah,
6624. And the numbers in the chat room.
I missed it. Do it again.
1-855-450-6624.
Yeah, 6642. Got it.
Oh, okay.
You know what I realized? Noah's normal show, it's phone number sized. Did he ever try to get Ask Noah the phone number?
No. Here's the thing: you'd be actually surprised at how many toll-free customized numbers are already taken.
No, I'm not surprised actually.
I spent considerable money to get just the last 4 to say Noah.
Really, really, that cost some change. Oh, I figured
it cost a couple.
Yeah,
bucks.
I've looked into it quickly for JB too, and it looked expensive. Jeez, Wes, you sound good on that mic.
Hello, sir.
Hey, you know what's funny about... So, hey, we'll start here now. We're going to start here in 1 minute. But so Noah got a new vocal processor that he used for the first time in Ask Noah yesterday. And you know what my first thought was, Noah? Is that it made it sound like you're on a dynamic mic.
Well, I was. The RE20 is a dynamic mic.
Oh, well, then there you go. Nice. All right, well, I'm ready whenever you are. But do you want me to play the music? No, you should play the music.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
I just didn't know. I didn't know if you actually wanted to start it.
No, you should start us, and then you bring in whoever you want. We'll just do our thing when we do our thing.
Okay. All right. Well, I got to bring you in okay, hold on. I got to. Oh God. I was in the wrong machine. If I'd have played it there, you wouldn't heard anything. This is something, I tell you. Okay, all right, here we go.
To do the intro.
We are going to do a user error on this because this is actually a pretty cool technical thing.
I'll take pictures. I'll do a video thing before. Well, not video, but I'll take pictures and stuff before so we have something to tweet out. Okay, all right, here we go. Well, I can't hear that. Oh, because I have to take my foot off the pedal.
I heard it. It's funny because I've never heard the Unplugged theme from the mumble side of the room before.
Yeah, I bet it doesn't sound very good. Yeah, I bet it does. Okay, all right. For realsies this time. This is Linux Unplugged. Yo. Oh, no. I screwed it up. Oh, no. So, Beard, the answer to your question is no. Okay.
Wait, what was my question?
Your question was, do you actually know how to do the intro?
Right. So this is Linux Unplugged, episode 223 for November 14, 2017. And then usually what I'll do is welcome to Linux Unplugged, your weekly Linux talk show, and I just make something up. Like
where Noah screws everything up every day.
Yeah.
Where Noah's where Noah's loaded Fedora and he's saving a day or something like that.
Right. Okay, all right. For reals this time. Here we go. This is Linux Unplugged, episode 223 for November 14th, 2017. Welcome to Linux Unplugged, your weekly Linux soul injection. Now featuring 100% more of Chris, Rikai, Wes, myself, and of course, the Mumble Room. This hour, we're going to take your phone calls, 1-855-450-6624. And welcome, everyone. Welcome, Chris. Welcome, Wes. I'm welcoming you guys to your own show. I'm kind of the guest, right?
No, you're here, Noah, and you're saving the day for us. It's a Fedora 27 extravaganza.
Blowout!
It's a blowout.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's funny. As the Fedora guy, I'm the only person, as one of the hosts, that's not actually running Fedora 27. How pathetic is that?
No, well, to make it up for you, all three of us are running 27 right now in the studio.
How many people in the Mumble Room? Hello, Mumble Room. How many of you are running Fedora 27?
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
All the live long day.
Yeah. Every day, all day, of course.
Well, I think this is going to be a super fun show. I think we've only done one other episode of Linux Unplugged where we've had a bunch of us all in the studio, because sometimes it's not even technically possible because there are only so many microphones that we have when we're all together, right? And so this is and if I'm filling in, oftentimes you're out of town or you're traveling. So this is the first time we've actually gotten together for this, big Linux party, so to speak.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, and we have a great turnout in the Mumble Room this week, including, I'm very excited to say, we have a special guest from the Fedora Project who will be chatting with us a little bit. Dan from Elementary OS just had himself quite the interview, and we'll talk to Dan a little bit about that. But we also just have a great showing. Popey and Wimpy pulled themselves away from Rust to be here with us, guys. I'm very excited about that. That's great. And Kits and Kitty
actually playing Rust whilst we're in the Mumble Room, by the way.
Yeah, we didn't pull ourselves away.
Yeah,
sorry.
okay. I should have known. And Kits and Kitty's here. Kitty, I can't even remember how long it's been since you've been here, but it may even been last week, but I'm excited. Either way, Noah, it's going to be a good show.
I agree. So starting off, the first thing that we're talking about today is Firefox Quantum. So tell me, as a Firefox user, you get to enlighten me because I don't know what Firefox Quantum is.
Jeez. It's Quantum Day, Noah. It's not just it's not just Firefox 57. Today is and shall ever be remembered as Quantum Day, and this is it. This is where Mozilla realized that they could bunch up a bunch of features all at once and actually get everybody excited about their browser for a change, and really make a big splash.
Aww.
No. I'm not being critical.
Okay.
What I'm saying is Mozilla really figured this shit out. They have staged a bunch of fundamental changes to the browser. A new UI. They've switched back to Google for the default search, and the quantum part refers to a brand new way of getting shit done in Firefox. It's twice as fast as the previous version of Firefox. It has a new CSS engine, supports multi-process architecture, so you can prioritize for different CPUs, different jobs. You can have properly sandboxed and isolated tabs, and it is significantly faster. for the same.
Really?
Yes, for essentially the same memory footprint.
That's fantastic.
It's the version of Firefox we've all been waiting for since Chrome was released.
Well, so I don't know if I've been waiting. I don't know if I've been necessarily waiting for that, but it is nice to see Firefox starting to step up and compete in some of the same ways that Chrome has been competitive. Because, you know, as a person, and you have to, but we've both bounced back and forth between Chrome and Firefox. And for me, we're opposite, right? I primarily stick to Firefox, and every once in a while I try that Chrome thing out. In fact, I'm using Chrome today. But there are legitimately performance things that I notice anytime I'm using Chrome that just don't exist in Firefox.
To me, it feels sturdier. It feels faster. It feels like the pages pop faster than Chrome. I don't have all of my extensions yet, which has always been my problem. But I'm trying to just come up with other ways to do that stuff. It's pretty nice, Noah.
Huh. Well, that is exciting. I knew that today was National Pickle Day. I did not know that today was National Quantum Day for Firefox. But
you know what? I learned. In the show notes, I put a link to a blog post at hacks.mozilla.org, and they talk about everything. But the things that I like the most is they talk about laying the foundation for what they call coarse-grained parallelism. And it feels like they looked at what Chrome's doing and they went, shit, we really have a problem here. We've got to really fundamentally fix this. And instead of pulling like a Microsoft approach where they just sort of like backport fixes to Windows and Windows just keeps getting a bigger and bigger beast that can do more stuff, they really did like a house cleaning here. They went through and they broke some stuff. And they reinvented some stuff, and they replaced some stuff, and they redesigned the UI, and then very clever for the Mozilla project, they saved it all up for this big release, this big quantum release, and they gave it a name, and of course that's from the quantum engine. They gave it this whole spin. We've been talking about it for months now, and it all landed. And by doing so, it gave them time to test and refine the features so they were ready for launch, and it gave everyone a common target to look at for Firefox. And it gives you a night and day experience. As long as you don't have any extensions that block the quantum engine, it really gives you a night and day experience. And it uses, at least on my machines, it uses less memory than Chrome.
Okay, so here's really the bottom line question. Who out there, and I'm kind of looking at you guys, Mumble Room, who out there is currently a Chrome user and is now, as a result of this news, considering switching back to Firefox?
That would be me.
Okay, tell me about it. Tell me about it.
Well, you know, if they claim to be faster, I really want to look at it and see if they claim to be faster, and they actually are. They've got they've got me switching back after probably several years. But,
okay, so
yeah.
So what does Firefox offer you that you're willing to jump ship on a working platform? What does Firefox offer you that's above and beyond? Why is it that if both are doing the same thing, basically what we're saying is Firefox is caught up, why then are you going to jump off Chrome to come back to Firefox?
Well, one thing I've noticed is that Chrome can get very laggy as it goes, because like if you have a ton of open tabs, it will actually bog down your processor because it is actually literally running each tab in a process. Chrome seems to be streamlining it into like shared processes per tab. See, you know what I'm saying? So if it truly is faster and more efficient on the memory, more efficient on the CPU, then that gives me more power to do other things like video editing or audio production, that kind of thing.
Okay, that makes sense. Anyone else?
Looking at it.
Partly.
Okay. Who was it that spoke up? One of our friends across the pond?
I think it'd be me. Yeah, I sort of was switching over from, I think when they went Firefox 56, which was the recent speed up, I've sort of been from Chrome going to about 50-50 between Chrome and Firefox. Some of it is just partly to half de-Googlify stuff and give support back to Firefox as a competition against Google.
Right, and that's my position on it too. Is a large reason that a large portion of the reason that I put up with some of the things I put up with in Firefox is largely because I like the organization. I like what they do. I like what they stand for. I like their principles, and I want to support that. And I am willing to sacrifice a certain amount of features and a certain amount of usability, I guess, is what it really amounts to. I mean, that's the truth. I'm willing to sacrifice some of those things.
You know what that means? That's bad. That cannot factor in at all in their strategy. Not a single tiny itsy bit. If that's what they're relying on, then they're not going to get adoption.
I agree from a business standpoint. However, I think that they have earned enough good, because there was a time before Chrome was ever even a thing where Mozilla, where Firefox was my retreat away from Internet Explorer, and they bought themselves so much buy-in capital with that from me personally. And as I continue, there's so many things that the Mozilla Corporation does. All of their meetings are open meetings. Anyone can attend a Mozilla meeting. I think they have a phone number you can dial up, or they have an online web stream, and you can just listen to what they're talking about, their line of thinking, how they're thinking. I mean, they're a very transparent organization, as opposed to Google, which is very much not a transparent organization. And so today, if we're saying that, as Firefox becomes a technically competitive product against Chrome, then I think they really start to hold their own to be able to say, look, now we have the technical features, plus we have all of this really good community offering.
Well, not only that, Noah, but also it seems like if I'm in the enterprise, this is the horse I want to bet on if I'm building internal applications that are dependent on a browser. Chrome is everything's built around Chrome now. Like, you look at all these Electron apps, they're really all built around Chrome and Chromium.
Yeah.
But if I'm in the enterprise and I'm looking at building applications around a browser, at this point, I would be much more inclined to go with Mozilla's product, simply because what the foundation's purpose is. Don't you think? Like,
you can trust. You have a lot more trust, and just that they won't suddenly change what they're doing. You have access to more of the secret sauce if you need it.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm not hearing much from Rika. I know, Rika, you're a really strong Chrome user, a real strong proponent of Chrome. What do you think about this?
No, I'm not going to change.
Okay.
There's no real reason for me to do so. I like Chrome, and a lot of the extensions that I use on Chrome aren't available on Firefox. So.
Yeah, I think there's a couple people in that boat.
Yeah. I definitely heard some people just around the office chatting about it who I wouldn't say are that interested in browsers. I mean, they are technical people, but I was kind of surprised. I will say for my own usage as well that I already use Firefox and Chrome. I use Google Apps, etc. But I think Firefox is going to be even more of a part of my life, and there'll be some systems where I probably will just drop Chrome altogether.
Same. Yeah.
Popey, I don't know if you're willing to talk about this on the air, but you have a very interesting workflow that Firefox is not currently capable of mimicking. Is that something you'd be willing to talk about?
Well, yeah. So I use Chrome all day, every day, and I use lots and lots of separate profiles, separate users in Chrome. And I like the way that Chrome lets me click a button, switch to another user, and I'll have a completely separate browser window with multiple tabs, everything saved for that user, which has a separate Gmail account. Everything is completely separate cookies. And whilst Firefox, I am told, can do this, and every time I try this, there are various extensions and ways and command line options that let you do this. It's never as smooth as it is in Chrome. And what I want is a browser which is my work window to the world, and a browser which is my personal window to the world, and then another 10 for all my other online personalities that I have. And Firefox just can't do that, and Chrome does.
And what would hold me back as well.
Well, and what's funny is, so aside from the puppet account thing, what's interesting about that is I think you are willing to push the envelope a lot further than the average user, even the average technical user, is going to do. Because I can tell you, I'm a fairly technical person. There is no way in this earth I'm going to sit there and open up terminals to start launching my web browser just to get, it's just not practical for me. And I think there's a lot of people. So I think if you aren't able to fit that into your workflow, I think anyone else that has that similar, concept of they want to have online personas, and I think a lot of people do, I think those people are hosed.
I think I'm just as lazy as the next guy, and I want an easy way to separate one bunch of work from another set of work. I want on a Friday night when it's 5 o'clock, I want to be able to close an entire window and all of my work disappears, and so I can say I don't have to worry about email notifications or tabs that have documents in that are related to my work. I can just forget those as soon as I close that tab. Now I realize I'm a bit of a special snowflake because my work machine is my personal machine. Yeah. And I know that's not the same as use cases. Most people have a work machine and a personal machine at home.
I would say that landscape is changing. I would say that there's a lot of people that are working from home, and I think a lot of those people are going to wind up with some of the same challenges and desires that you have. And I'll tell you what's interesting about working from home, because I do it too. It becomes so important to be able to distinguish this is home and this I'm spending personal time and I am doing working time. And when you're working from home, the best way to do that, if you can, is to have separate machines. But the problem with having separate machines is oftentimes they are expensive. And so one of the advents that has come along in the past couple of years that has really opened us up to be able to play with things, especially those of us that are doing things from home and are trying to do simultaneous different projects, is obviously the ARM architecture. And up until recently, I have had this issue where I'm deploying Red Hat all day long and I'm deploying CentOS all day long on all these servers. And then I get home and I'm like, and this just happened just a couple months ago. We were testing an EMR for a clinic, and they said, can you set it up and just show us kind of how it would work? I said, sure. So I'm kind of setting everything up and kind of got everything set up on a Raspberry Pi because they're cheap and they work. The problem was when we went to actually put it into production, we had to end up exporting out all of these, SQL template stuff, because I couldn't just move everything over because it was the ARM port of it. It wasn't binarily compatible with the x86 processor that they were going to use in production. And so what Red Hat has announced today blew me away, because it's going to, in a large way, change a lot of that. And this is from Red Hat themselves. Red Hat has announced Enterprise Linux for ARM. So the article goes on to say, today marks a milestone for Red Hat Enterprise Linux with the addition of a new architecture on our list that fully supports platforms. Red Hat Enterprise Linux for ARM is a part of our multi-architect strategy, the culmination of a multi-year collaboration with upstream community and our silicon and hardware parties. And so the article goes on to talk about how Red Hat basically took this pragmatic approach to ARM servers. And I remember, and Chris and I were talking about this earlier today, Linus said that a couple years ago that one of the things that excited him about ARM was he believed it was a true competitor to Intel in a way that he hadn't seen since back in the old Mac days when they were on a different architecture altogether. and now we have a true competitor to Intel. And at the time, I was kind of skeptical of that. I was like, are you kidding? Because the ARM, basically at the time, was like the thing that was running inside of cell phones. It couldn't do anything serious. And then year after year, I've watched these things literally double in power until just last year. I think we were doing we were doing our review of the latest Ubuntu Mate, and lo and behold, I was installing the same operating system on my Raspberry Pi for $35, Amazon Prime available, that I was installing inside of my studio. And it's just this mind warp that I just couldn't get over. Yeah. And I know, Chris, you as a person in the studio, I mean, how many different computers are you sitting in front of? You can put your hand on probably 8 of them right now.
The thing that I think you touched on there that really is just it's an impossible force for Intel to deal with is because ARM processors are in all of these routers and all of these little tiny devices and all of these lady tubes and obviously in all of these phones. Yeah, they're lady tubes.
No, I know. I think of something else until I figure out what we're talking about.
This is my safe way of not triggering them, because people that are listening to the podcast, they get really frustrated when you trigger their lady tube. So I just refer to it. Plus, it can be the Google. It could be the.
There's all kinds of annoying people in tubes these days,
and there's a lot of annoying lady tubes. So, in fact, they're all kind of annoying in their own unique way.
Oh, yeah.
Really. And the thing is, all of them have ARM processors. Every damn cell phone, though. That's really the thing, right? Every cell phone has the ARM processor in it. And this has caused a momentum of investment and year-over-year improvement in a platform that Intel and AMD just can't simply sustain on the x86 side. They just can't compete with that. Now, they're so far ahead that it hasn't really mattered. But the thing about these ARM CPUs is, damn if they don't work great together, because you can use modern operating systems to sort of carve out a few of these cores, and so you have companies like Cray and Qualcomm that are launching 48-core systems.
Oh boy,
48-core ARM systems, and they don't even. I mean, Noah, you and I were chatting about this earlier. They don't really cost that much.
No, they start out at lowest price I found, and this isn't for the 48 core. I think this is 30-something cores, 20-something cores, 30-something cores, but they start at $900. And then for the 48 core version, you're looking at like just under $2K.
48 cores, $2K.
But if you compare that to what you would pay for just a quad core Xeon, that's half the price of what I pay for some of the servers that we have that have 4 cores in it. So the amount of computing power that you're getting per dollar, and then we haven't even talked about the energy, because the power consumption of these ARM devices is just a fraction of what they are on Intel or AMD, and so and then by proxy then, or by translation, the heat that is output by a lot of these ARM devices is a fraction.
That's the other big thing, which means less AC, right? Yeah, it means means less cost for the data center to run cooling. And while these per core, I think Beard was probably about to say this, while these per core don't compete with an Intel or an AMD chip, the thing is you can build core specific jobs. So you can slice off 20 or 24 or whatever cores for this particular application that you've custom written for this job.
Well, I can also think of like any number of servers I run and or have that it's not like they're at their peak performance all the time. A lot of times they're just sitting there. And if you could just have especially if maybe you're running some sort of, maybe you're running a chat server or something else that has a high degree of parallelism, but doesn't actually do that much. It's mostly just sending keep alives between the million clients connected to it. These seem like great fits for anything like that.
Yeah. Now, can I just say, all of this aside, and much congratulations to the Red Hat folks for getting full Red Hat enterprise support behind this platform, which is, I think, a huge milestone for the industry in general. I also, part of me has to say, welcome to the party, by the way, because a lot of us have been here for quite a while now, especially those that are Debian-based or Ubuntu-based. And then you look at some projects like that Canonical has that, specifically some of the long-term investments that some projects have made into working on ARM platforms, into really solid upgrades on those platforms and delivering software. It's good that they're here, but I kind of wonder what took them so long at the same time.
Actually, I wouldn't mind commenting on that, actually.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Christian.
Yeah, so as you know, Red Hat, the business model of Red Hat, right, is that you sell as called the standards operating system that you traditionally have installed on x86 systems. And I think for anyone who worked with ARM in the past, right, it's historically been highly custom platforms where you basically you get some sort of Linux version from usually the hardware vendor, and it's a lot of manual tweaking to get it running and maintain it, and then you ship your device right with this Linux version, and of course when you need to do an update, it is usually a bit painful. So when Red Hat decided to enter this market, one thing that we've spent a lot of time doing was actually working to ensure that there's a standardized platform we deploy towards. So the fact that this ARM service will be using UEFI, that's partially because we said, we need a standard way to boot the systems. We don't want to deal with 10 different bootloaders on 10 different platforms.
Christian, would it be an accurate statement then to say that some of the delay was Red Hat dragging the industry towards some standards?
Yeah, I was working with Linaro and the industry partners to say that we are happy to put Red Hat's name as an enterprise hardware software vendor behind this, but we also need you to then step up the plate and say that, hey, we're going to have a standard platform that you can install a standard operating system on. You don't need to have a bespoke operating system to install it, because Red Hat is not. I don't know if I don't even say this, but Red Hat doesn't really have an interest in going into the bespoke OS market.
That it's interesting because that seems to align with what my perception of Red Hat, and a lot of times, if I'm being honest, is a lot of times what pushes Red Hat to the top of the list anytime I'm sitting in front of a university board, or what have you, is that if something is put out by Red Hat, I know that it's mature technology, and I know there's an argument to be had here about systemd, but for the most part, when Red Hat puts something forward, they're usually one of the later adopters. They're not one of the the cutting edge pioneers, at least not on Red Hat Enterprise. So what you're describing seems to fit with what my perception has been, and again, I'm just some guy talking about my experience, but that's what I have seen. Mumble Room, who else in here is interested in, who would deploy Red Hat Enterprise, an enterprise operating system on an ARM architecture? Does this change anything for you? Or is this something that you say, well, like Chris said, Debian's had it for a while, Canonical has had it for a while, so it's really nothing new. This really doesn't give us a tool we didn't have in the toolbox. Anyone?
The problem is probably that people are not using ARM architecture on business level right now, but that might change soon.
I think so. I think it is going to change soon. I don't think it's. I mean, everybody's been predicting this over and over again, but you now have Cray, you have Qualcomm. I mean, you have a lot of big players that are saying, we're not replacing x86, but if you have an application-specific task for us, we're ready to go.
It also seems like it might lower that entry, right? Because, like, well, we weren't even considering it before, but suddenly if we can run the same OS, we can use very similar image versions from the people who maintain that.
Yeah.
You know, like, we have a bunch of Raspberry Pis that run TVs at my office. We already had that option. If we were a RHEL shop, now that would be great.
Right, and so that's actually what I was about to say. Was I respectfully disagree that ARM doesn't have a strong foothold and a wide foothold inside of an enterprise audience. I think where it best fits though is in a lot of appliance type applications. But in that same way, and kind of what you were touching on, Wes, is in that same way, a lot of these platform systems, if you have software stacks and you have management systems, for us that was really big. Our remote management system to log into systems and pull statistics and all of that. When they came out with an ARM port, that was huge for us because we could then enroll all of those ARM systems that we had, even if they're just appliances, into that central management system. And so I would imagine that there are tons of businesses out there, like you said, they're either RHEL shops or they have custom software that runs on RHEL, and they can say, now we had these kind of one-off appliances that were out here that were on ARM. If we switched operating systems, we could then have all of those standardized. And I think that's hugely beneficial to businesses.
Yeah, I just want to know when I can build my ARM PC. As a long-time x86 user, all I really care about is that I can build my own PC system, because that's just cool. And when I can start building my own ARM systems, then I'll care. That's really for me. That's it.
Yeah, and I think if you're happy with a Raspberry Pi, you can do that today. There also are more robust ARM architectures out there. In fact, some of the best representation we have for that is from the Arch ARM group, and those guys, and I see them all the time at different Linux events and stuff. And they have a whole table full of, because when I think of ARM, and when you think of ARM, most people, we think of these $35 Raspberry Pis, but they have like $400 and $500 computers that are ARM computers that you can install that are designed, with tighter tolerances. Because at the end of the day, the Raspberry Pi was never designed to be a general purpose computer. It was designed to be a teaching tool. Turns out it's such a great teaching tool and was built so well and designed so, above what they targeted to do, that you can use it as a general purpose computer. And for 80% of people, it works just fine. But it does, and I've tried to put it in some critical applications and I've gotten bit. And so there are other devices out there, and I wish I could tell you what they are. I don't know. I tell you what I do know. Kernel 4.14 was released. OMG Ubuntu came out with an article today, said Kernel 4.14 features a large number of new feature changes and is set to become the next long-term LTS release, backed for several years by ongoing maintenance and support.
Yeah.
Things that they have a whole list of things that they have added, and those are in the show notes. But things that stood out to me that I think are particularly interesting: the Asus T100 touchpad support. Now, if you don't know what the Asus T100 is, it is a small laptop, UMPC, not quite UMPC, more like a netbook size PC. They sell for about $150 to $200. You can pick them up at any Best Buy, Target has them, that kind of thing. And it had the computer and the display is all in one, so it's kind of a tablet style, but the keyboard can be attached, or maybe it flips around, I'm not exactly sure. But it is one of the most cost-effective, well-built little netbook computers out there. And Linux was originally very problematic on it. When they first came out, we tried to put Linux on one and we couldn't get Wi-Fi to work, couldn't get Bluetooth to work. The touchpad didn't work, sound didn't work. So basically you had a display and a keyboard and that was it. And that was still such a good deal that I would run into people. In fact, I ran into somebody at LinuxCon, I think last year, and he had like this concoction of USB dongles to get all of the connectivity and devices working. And with kernel 4.14, the last of those devices is now supported. That's the touchpad. So I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, a better support for Ryzen processors. If I can make a quick plug, next week on the Ask Noah show, Monday, 6 p.m. Central, we're going to have Wendell Wilson from Level 1 Techs. And Wendell is he's a really great guy. And he's been doing some really cool things with Ryzen and Threadripper, doing PCI pass-through, and so that he can run Linux on his bare metal, but yet he can still take advantage of all of the software that Windows has to offer. And he has some really interesting theories about how we're all going to be using Linux in just a couple of years. And I think he backs it up pretty well. So make sure to tune in for that. But
cool.
but better Ryzen support for Linux means that is all the more realistic.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I as somebody who has almost exclusively either Intel or NVIDIA hardware, I got to admit, it's looking really good for AMD GPU users these days. But no, I got to say, I think the big thing about 4.14
Don't say ButterFS. Don't say ButterFS.
Nope, no, it's just the fact that this is the new LTS kernel that's going to be around for like 6 years. And if we start getting this in these here Android devices, we might actually have ourselves like a sustainable, patchable, manageable Linux kernel that's used by millions of devices. Like this could be a really, really good thing for Android, let alone all the other distributions. But just Android alone, this could be a huge thing if OEMs and Google start shipping this kernel at some point.
Absolutely. Mumble Room, what do you guys think? Who's super excited about the new kernel release?
Oh!
Well, I mean, there's ButterFS.
Producer Paco comes in with the butter. Well, yeah, what are you super excited there about there, Rotten? What are you... You liar.
New compression support for ButterFS.
Yeah,
that's what the feature set is, just so that you can continue to...
They did also improve their SSD allocation algorithms and other things.
Oh, really?
Which I will say, like, we're all pretty down about ButterFS, especially for large storage, but I think maybe OS volumes on SSDs is one of the places it does see some use.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't put ButterFS on anything.
The one that actually stood out to me is HDMI CEC support for the Raspberry Pi.
No kidding.
Which I believe,
let's talk about that.
Which I believe is the thing that lets the Raspberry Pi able to remotely turn on displays.
Like here in the studio, the NVIDIA Shield TV supports HDMI-C, so when you wake up the Shield, it automatically turns on the TV without you having to grab the TV remote. So it kind of solves like the universal remote problem by just not needing it.
And they added support for more Raspberry Pis as well.
My understanding too, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong on this, but CEC allows you to not only just turn the device on, but also acknowledge which is the active input. So you can set CEC. So if I have 4 different devices that are plugged into a TV, when a device starts seeing activity, it will switch the input to that particular device and power the TV on. Am I right about that?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's great. I mean, it works here in the studio with the Android TV devices, so it makes sense that you'd want this on a Raspberry Pi because you could put this in a Kodi appliance.
I think that worked with previous kernels because I have Arch ARM here on a Raspberry Pi 3, and if I launch it, my TV launches too.
Yeah. Well, so there are 2 things. There's HDMI CEC, which is what Rikai is talking about, and that's where the Raspberry Pi is actually talking. It's talking via data over the HDMI cable.
Yeah, that works out of the box.
Well, but just so we're clear, a lot of TVs just support if there is an active HDMI signal, just turn on the TV. That's my Western Digital's TV, which rest their soul, they're great devices, even though I'm not using them anymore. Those devices didn't support HDMI CEC, but still, when I powered the device on, my TV would come on, and that was just because the TV had a feature of if I see an HDMI signal, just power myself up. So there is a different. Just because the TV came on doesn't necessarily mean it was doing CEC, but it could have existed.
No, I have a Sony Bravia here. So all I had to do, I had to install libcec. Now it's introduced in the kernel, but I just had to add libcec, install it, and then it worked out of the box.
Well, okay.
I mean, if you had to add the lib, then it's not out of the box.
Okay, I agree.
No, we gotta kill. No, I don't feel bad. We gotta kill the term out of the box because when's the last time anybody installed Linux from a box? Give me a break. We gotta kill that term.
Chris, it's this giant, nice, big monolithic kernel.
I would buy one just for the novelty. Have it on the shelf.
100%, dude.
So funny story, guys. Red Hat 7 shipped with a boxed version of Red Hat 7. Yeah, as a promotional item.
Awesome.
You could buy a boxed version of Red Hat 7 and they would deliver it in a box to your house. You could open it up and there were like, I don't know what they put inside. I hope it was an optical disc because I wouldn't know what to do with it in a server these days. We don't have optical drives anymore.
In storage somewhere, I have a nice CD case with Red Hat Linux 5.
Yeah,
Do you really?
Yeah.
I collect older versions of Red Hat.
I bought every single version of SUSE and Mandrake that came out. I got the free CDs from Ubuntu as long as I could. I was all about it as long as I could because there was a celebratory fact, or just like I have this physical thing. And one of the things that made me use SUSE early on was this beautiful, gorgeous, detailed, updated manual for every single release. It was a book. It wasn't a pamphlet. SUSE had a book. and I would read through that, and I could feel the texture of the paper, and it would have screenshots, and it was so awesome that this Linux thing had this really physical book. And I would still do. I'd buy it for Ubuntu 16.04. I'd do Solus. I really would, because not only is it a nice way to contribute, but But what I would want now is I'd want a branded USB drive. Like Martin there knows about he seems to have found somebody who can make a very nice looking Ubuntu Mate thumb drive. Maybe people should talk to Wimpy about that, because damn, that thing's hot looking. It's a nice metal thumb drive, and you could put that in like a packet with like a book or a pamphlet about it. Like I'd spend $65 for something like that, as long as like a good percentage of it went to the project.
That's interesting. That might be a funding source or a revenue source for them. Like I said, I think Red Hat did it kind of as a promo thing. So hopefully you can find out if that actually worked out. It's interesting. So when you got that book, did you go through and like read it? Like was there useful information in there?
I would say I skimmed it. It was more about converting something that was this hobbyist, crazy ass, nearly hippie ideal to a physical good that came in a box with like 6 discs and a book. It was more about like that reality of this thing that I had.
So I never had the SUSE, but I had the Red Hat thing. And the Red Hat, I don't know if anyone out there remembers this, but Red Hat used to come with a little pamphlet, and it gave you like this quick start, like this is Linux, and it's a different operating system that you might not be familiar with. And here's kind of the basic how-to kind of getting started thing. And one of the things that, the thing I guess that really kind of drew me to it was when I sat down in Linux for the first time, pulling these things out of the box, I had no idea what I was doing. And so every little tiny hint that I could get, including those little pamphlets, that was a big help to me. Of course, today, if I was doing that, I would head over to Linux Academy/Unplugged, because Linux Academy is going to do that same thing, where you're going to have the ability to just visit a website and get a tutor and these people care about Linux. These people understand Linux. They know Linux. And you can tell if you've ever taken a bad online computer course, a video course, you can hear the instructor kind of like reading through his notes, or they'll have bad takes or something. And you can tell when you're sitting down. And I did the Red Hat 7 one, I think, most recently, rather than actually paying for the Red Hat course. And I didn't find myself lost at all. And I could tell as the instructor kind of went off on little real hand stories. Well, when I was working for this client, or when I was doing this, we found this to be most useful. And this is why I'm super excited about this being in Red Hat 7. You can hear that personal commentary. That's stuff that you just don't get with somebody who's just a paid voice to read or to explain something, right? So Linux Academy/Unplugged, they've worked out a really great discount for you, so you can get started cheaper than ever and get started on your on your next Linux career. We get emails all the time, both at the Ask Noah show, and I'm sure you get them here on Unplugged, Chris. But people are saying, hey, you started my career, you jumpstart my career. In fact, is Eric still in the chat room with us? Eric H? Maybe not.
I think he had to go smoke him the crack pipe.
Yeah, maybe. Eric H was telling me just the other day, he was like, you know what? You and Jupiter Broadcasting, and thanks to companies like Linux Academy, you got my new career started. I started because of what you guys were doing on the network, and for what things like your sponsors like Linux Academy have done for me, and it launched his entire career, and now he's on a completely different path, and I think that's just really great, because we spend the majority of our lives, our working years, so you want to be doing something you love. So head over to linuxacademy.com/unplugged and make sure to take advantage of that discount.
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead, Chris.
I was just going to say, the thing about Linux Academy too that I really love about it as a Linux geek is they pass the sniff test, because when you start using it, you go, oh yeah, these guys are Linux geeks. They're geeks. They love Linux, and that's when it clicks. That's when it clicks.
So apparently, I'm talking about Linux Academy like it's something that everyone knows. They have a website. It's linuxacademy.com/unplugged. Apparently, there's a URL that you have to go to actually get there.
Well, then you get the free 7-day trial, so that's useful. Yeah, linuxacademy.com/unplugged.
There you go. All right, so is it Chris or Rikai? No. I'm sorry. I jumped ahead. So one of a new software.
It was you. This one was all you, Noah.
I know. But I didn't see that until I scrolled down a little bit. New software version of OpenShot 2.4 is released, and I tell you what, I played with it for I didn't have a lot of time to play with it when I saw it. I saw it just for researching the show, and I downloaded it and I was just playing with it a little bit. Man, are they making some progress. OpenShot, even if, and I'll be the first one to admit, even if OpenShot is not the video editor that I could use today to do the things that I need to get done, even if that's not for me today, OpenShot is definitely the nonlinear video editor on Linux that I want to succeed long term.
Yeah.
Boy, I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. That's the nicest possible way to say it. And I would like Jonathan to get a hold of me, and I would like to have a conversation with him, because I can honestly tell just by looking at the screenshots that this is never going to work for Jupiter Broadcasting. This is never going to work for me. And, if you look at the Linux Gamecast, I think there's a very specific reason that they're on a much older version of this program than this current one. And I completely support somebody working their ass off on an open source project, and I completely want somebody to build something for Linux that does this. But Jesus, if it's not going to be completely irrelevant by the time he gets anywhere where this thing is usable, Pipewire is now just a couple of years away to be completely feature complete, and this thing's going to have to be completely rewritten to use any of that. And the UI is fundamentally impossible for anything that's more than just a couple of tracks of editing. So, which means if it's anybody that's trying to edit anything more than their Thanksgiving dinner, it's never going to work for anybody.
That was a really nice dinner.
Yeah, right? That's all it's good for. And I totally respect Jonathan. I totally respect the OpenShot project. I have used past versions of OpenShot, which are really great. This, unfortunately, is like skating to where the puck was about 6 years ago. And I really am disappointed to say that as somebody who actually backed this project when he did it on Kickstarter. I was a backer of this. Super disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be realistic. I will say they have done some cool things. Improved playback. One of the things that Linux has struggled with is both 4K and video that is above 30 frames per second. So this has smooth playback for 50 frames per second, 60 frames per second, and 120 frames per second. So they are making progress. And I'll tell you, where OpenShot really fits in is if you just need to clip some video files up. If you just need to drop a video file in and clip off the beginning, clip off the end, or make a clip mashup or something like that. If you want a really easy, simple video editor to do that, I think OpenShot fits the bill there. But I echo 100% your sentiment. I think when you start getting into any even remotely complicated workflow, you're going to be struggling. I mean, Kdenlive is a great, fantastic open source editor that I think is light years ahead of OpenShot.
I agree. Kdenlive is a much better candidate for this particular type of work. And then when you need to go beyond that, Lightworks, it's a bit of a learning curve, but it is absolutely a capable editor, and that's available for Linux as well. And so it's getting Resolve. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Talk about that.
Is it, Rotten, are you using DaVinci Resolve?
I have used it. I don't use it typically because I don't like the way they distribute it. But overall, it's definitely a good editor, and I wish they would make a more reasonable distribution method.
Well, what are you using for Tux Digital?
Kdenlive, basically.
Okay.
Pretty much always Kdenlive. I use Lightworks occasionally too, but it's almost always Kdenlive. But I just wanted to say, I think OpenShot's more in the iMovie realm.
Yeah, I would agree. It's one of those things that you can pick up and just throw something together real quick. I'm curious, what do you find egregious about the distribution for DaVinci Resolve?
They have it's a binary that you have to run a rooted SH file to install it. So it's not any kind of format of it uses this thing called make sh, and it's just it's a weird binary compiled bash script essentially.
You should you
have to root, and you can't see what the script is doing, and you have to give it root access as a script. And then it's so weird because you can't unpackage it or anything. So it's if anything, at least do an app image. Do something that's reasonable.
Yeah, even OpenShot does an app image.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I think part of that I think is there's a discussion to be had on how software manufacturers are supposed to target distributions, because when they go to make an installable file, it's well, which distribution are we installing for? So I mean, I think there's a discussion to be had there, and I think that snaps and Flatpak stuff are going to go a long way to fix that. So, Chris, tell me about this GNOME Shell 4 proposal.
This is really interesting because it's gotten a lot of immediate reaction today on the internet, and some of the reaction has been, "Are you kidding me? You've just gotten GNOME basically stable, and now you want to reinvent the wheel with GNOME 4." And then the other end of the spectrum has been, finally, what the hell is taking you guys so long to address some of these fundamental issues? So we have 2 links in the show notes. One's to a Phoronix article that summarizes it really well, and then one is to the actual wiki post by the GNOME project that gives a lot of detail. But essentially, you have GNOME 3 Shell today, which is doing great, right? Everybody's loving it. It's getting deployed in all the places. But it's built around X11. It's built around the era of X11. And with GNOME Shell 4, they want to build it around Wayland, a Wayland-first design, as the project puts it. And the whole idea is to do away with X11/Xorg support entirely. Their words, not mine. The new GNOME Shell would be better fitted for low-latency input forwarding, low-latency visual input event feedback, who doesn't love that, and low-latency zero-copy client forwarding. Those all sound good because they have the word low latency in front of them, and I like low latency.
You hate latency.
I kind of like zero copy. I don't know what that means, but I like it.
It's good because it's like you can copy without having to copy on the back end and then forward back to the client. It's good, Rikai. It's good.
Basically, it's synergy.
Yeah, it is, and that's so that's the Wayland first is what's getting the headlines. But what I think is more interesting about this story, and you learn more when you read the actual wiki post, is the GNOME project is facing a couple of really, really hard choices. 3, I think, to be exact, and they identify a few core problem areas. The number one problem that need new solutions. And man, if I don't agree with every single one of these. Number 1, low latency input forwarding is a problem that they need new solutions for. Number 2, low latency visual input event feedback. Like, specifically, to put that back in user terms, they mean cursor movement feedback. You move the cursor, it should be glued exactly to your mouse movement. Exactly. You move that mouse a millimeter, it should represent that exactly. It should be glued together. Low latency and zero client copy forwarding. Also, input methods in the shell, and this is the number one thing that they put as number 5 on their list, but for me, this is number 1. Stalls on the main thread and stalls on the compositor for frame redraws. Now, that one line item is a really, really big deal because it means breaking GNOME up into a bunch of different processes where you don't just rely on one primary renderer, which is what always ends up being the fundamental criticism of GNOME. Now, they have a few different potential solutions for this that they've outlined on their wiki. And some of these are radical. Option A is pretty big, and it's the closest to I would say, the Plasma desktop setup. It's a UI process and a compositor process, which is exactly how the Plasma desktop does it today. There's also a few other less dramatic options that they have available to them that they're considering. Another option potentially being less drastic, but would only solve 3 out of the 5 problems I just listed, is to introduce a proxy display server. Yeah, a proxy display server would be somewhat similar to an X server. And then they would essentially have GNOME talk to that, and then that proxy would talk to Wayland. You know, kind of like Mir. But let's not bring that up. And then they have pros and cons outlined for all of that. And what it left me with is, this is what I was talking about earlier in the year on this show, is the transition to Wayland. And we've all been like, let's get Wayland going. Let's get Wayland by default. Let's get Wayland working on NVIDIA. Let's get Wayland working on Intel. The thing is once you get to Wayland, there is so much more work for these desktop projects. And they, in some cases, are going to have to reinvent some of the core aspects of the desktop. And in the case of GNOME Shell 4, it would break, most likely, and the project's the one saying this, not me, GNOME Shell 3 extensions. So all the extensions that you are currently using to make your GNOME 3 shell usable would likely break with GNOME Shell 4. Now, I'm not saying that's going to be the end of the world. I'm not saying there's not going to be an easy transition or maybe a new standardized stable API out of this. It could end up in something much better. I know, right? Yeah. But it could end up in something that's better than what we have now. But in the immediate short term, your dock, your crazy hack to do XYZ could break. You know, for me, it'd be my Bitcoin widget, I'm sure, because they like to break that a lot. And so GNOME Shell 4 is now on the horizon. And it is just one of the millions of dominoes that are going to fall in this transition to Wayland.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch, but I kind of resonate with what you were talking about earlier when you said why not start working with Canonical and Mir to do a lot of these things that they're trying to reinvent the wheel on.
Well, Mir's got a lot of we call this thing called drama. I don't know what you guys call it over in Grand Forks, but here on the West Coast, we call it drama.
So, here's the other drama. If we're talking about drama, then what kind of message does that send from the GNOME community up to Canonical, which have basically just banked their business on this on this desktop?
I wouldn't say bank the business. I wouldn't say that.
At least the desktop part of it.
Yeah. I don't know. That's a good question.
Their desktop, they don't seem to actually have they.
Or I'm HP, or I'm anybody that's going to pre-configure and ship a Canonical derived desktop. I feel better right now that they're using GNOME because I look at business risk and I evaluate other companies, and compared to me, Canonical is a small shop that is struggling to make it by, and I'm super rich, I'm worldwide, I want to ship my products to millions of customers, and I'm a little skeptical that they can pull all that shit off. And so the fact that they're now deferring that work to the community, the wider community, and a huge part of that development is backed by Red Hat, and that's no secret to anybody in the industry. You look at these facts and you say, well, now we've just deferred our risk because now Canonical is not solely responsible for the development of the Ubuntu desktop. All of these companies are all in, and they just have to do a great job of packaging up and make it work right, and that's all I need to ship it on my hardware.
And that's the hardware vendor's perspective, but then you have to look at and this is not an insignificant amount of dollars, not an insignificant amount of revenue, and not an insignificant amount of the Ubuntu infrastructure. Look at companies like Amazon and Google. And I'm not talking about Amazon servers. I'm not talking about Google servers. I'm talking about the workstations that sit in front of the human beings that use them. Those machines are running Ubuntu on the desktop. Amazon has, and I've talked to a number of different Amazon employees. One of them is a good friend of mine. He's been on this show and on Ask Noah, Sean. And he's one of the guys that works in the IT department for Amazon. And Ubuntu is by far the dominant operating system, desktop dominant operating system on their computers. And very much the same thing if you talk to a Google employee. They have a lot of Chromebooks. They have some people using MacBooks. And really, the common denominator for Google obviously is going to be Chrome. And they've tooled Chrome to do all the things they need it to do.
Yeah.
But the actual workstation that does the calculations, the actual thing that they're remoted into, the actual thing that's doing the thinking, that's a Linux Ubuntu desktop.
I'll keep it brief, because we've talked about it a lot recently on the show here. But for us, I was looking at different options for the studio because we were having a different array of technical problems that essentially came down to running multiple Linux distributions. I mean, not to make, but that's what it kind of came down to.
Yeah.
And so if we just standardized on one thing, and I emphasize that by hitting my mic, if we just standardized on one thing. Then we would kind of have one common thing to work towards. And so after a bunch of testing, which I've talked about a ton on the show, we landed on Ubuntu 16.04 for the production OS.
Yep.
Now, one of the things that did factor into that is there isn't multiple versions for me to figure out. There's one Ubuntu LTS that gets 5 years. I don't have to go get a CentOS version of Ubuntu or some sort of rolling version that's supported by a open source subset of a corporate backed. It's Ubuntu LTS. And then later on, after I get it all set up and I go, oh, guess what? This shit's actually working for me and it hasn't cost me anything. I can then go choose to subscribe to Landscape or one of their other subscription services, which then all of a sudden turns them into legitimate systems. That I'm centralized manage. And I don't have to play this mental game that feels like it's from the 90s, deciding which version of Linux I need. Do I need the Red Hat corporate version where I subscribe to their service? Do I need CentOS, which is kind of like the same thing, but I support it myself? Do I want Tumbleweed? Do I want Leap? None of this crazy, stupid, abstracted different versions. I get Ubuntu 16.04 full stop. It's Ubuntu 16.04. It's the same one you can download for free. It's the same one I can download for free. It's the same one I can put on my personal laptop. It's the same one I can put up on a server, on a VPS. It is the same Ubuntu, and the systems that are important to me, I subscribe to Landscape and I get Ubuntu Advantage, and now all of a sudden they're enterprise systems. And to me, that simplicity that felt like it was more kind of like a basic straight approach was what was the eventual, like, okay, well, you combine the commercial support, you combine the software support, and you combine the selective commercial software, like back support by Canonical where I need it, and it's great because we can standardize 16 systems in the studio on 1604, and I can subscribe for support on 6 of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I the other thing is you are very involved in the community, so probably not much comes as a surprise to you, but there are a lot of companies that they kind of just ad hoc trust that they want a company to do the thinking for them and do all the planning, and they deal with all the community minutia and just deliver them a product. And that is a valuable service, and that is also a valuable selling point when I'm going to talk to people about switching to Linux, basically.
Sure, I bet it is. And when I was working with a company where we were deploying lots of really critical Linux servers, it was no question to buy the $5,000 Red Hat Enterprise support. And I can't remember what we called it back then, but they had multiple grades. I don't know if they still do this. And one was like, you got like 10 years and you got like a hotline to call support. And that was what we bought. We bought that really super fancy one.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. And that wasn't even a big deal. Like, whatever, that's fine. It was just included as part of the purchase cost of a server. And so you spend $15,000 and about $3,500 of that was the server license and support. And it wasn't even a conversation. It wasn't a debate. It wasn't looking at the merits of it. It was, you buy Red Hat and it's fine. But now when I'm running my own business, my own small business, it's a completely different perspective I have on it. And so I think that's why Red Hat can make billions of dollars still with this particular setup they have. And it doesn't, and Canonical can make a profitable revenue source with their setup because they're essentially appealing to a bit of the same market while at the same time super fulfilling different ends of the spectrum.
Absolutely. Anyone from the Mumble Room have any perspective to add before we move on?
Actually, I did. So in regards to the whole GNOME 4 thing, with them, the question should be are they deprecating or are they reinventing? Because this sounds like a process that they've been working on for years, it sounds like, and have been building up to. It just sounds to me like the media is just freaking out in the same way that
the media
freak out with Pop OS and calling it a fork when they're just changing the theme around.
One, Pop OS is a fork. System 76 said it is. 2, the GNOME thing has been in process for a while, yes, but they also said that it would GTK4 and GNOME 4 would break all compatibility GTA 3. That's why GTA 3 is going to have a very very long LTS.
Yep, and you also have to figure that there's more and more LTS distros these days shipping it.
Yeah, so they're going to have they're not they are deprecating it, but they're going to wait a very long time before they deprecated it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I want to double down on
you
should double down on your point too. They have been forecasting this for a very long time. It's not like this is a surprise. This is something that they've been talking about for a long time. Version 4 is called version 4 because it's meant to warn developers there's going to be some breakage here.
Yeah, they said that about I think 3 years ago. They started saying that this will have breaks.
Yeah, and to chime in a bit here, I mean, that wiki post was written by Jonas Ådahl, who's on my team, and who's been one of the main guys behind a lot of our port work to Wayland. So, I mean, at the moment, no code is written here. This is basically him saying, okay, I spend a lot of time helping now with the port of GNOME 3 to Wayland, and we still have things we plan to do there. But here's some of the problems I see, and I think here's maybe how we want to look at resolving them in the long run. So, I mean, my recommendation to anyone would be that don't hold your breath for GNOME Shell 4. It's not going to be hitting tomorrow. This is sort of a multi-year thing.
That's fair. Hey guys, just a reminder, we've got phone lines open 1-855-450-6624. You can call and be a part of the program today. Kind of a special edition of the Linux Unplugged program. Joe took advantage of that. He's calling from Philadelphia. Hey Joe, what's on your mind? Welcome to Linux Unplugged. Oops, forgot to put my foot out. Sorry, I had my foot on this pedal so long. Hey, how's it going?
No problem. Good. Thanks for taking the call and doing this variation of the episode. What I want to bring to the table for the discussion is now that Canonical is getting nice and chummy with Microsoft, what do you think is the possibility, and I know you guys like, and especially Noah, you like virtualization of apps and stuff like that, of Canonical offering, Microsoft Office for productivity through Ubuntu, through virtualization as a catch-all, be-all in regards to true productivity on the desktop. I know many would say, hey, but there's LibreOffice and all that stuff, but I'll be honest with you, there's nothing like what you can do with Excel if you're doing some heavy calculations for accounting or those kind of things. And I want to get your take on that. Is that viable? Or can a regular IT solution company kind of offer that on the side for small business to do that kind of customization? And what's your take on that?
Yeah, sure. I'm going to punt that to Chris to start.
So I can hear Chris, so I don't know if I can get past that or not, but
I think we should hear from you, Mr. Noah.
Yeah, okay, sure. So here's my thought on it. My thought on it is that, so there's a couple of things to break this down. First of all, I think that as always when it comes to these kinds of things, there are social limitations, and we confuse those for technical limitations. So there's a lot of people out there that will sit down and say, well, I just can't get my job done in LibreOffice Calc. I have to have Excel. Well, what do you do? Well, I have to add, 35,000 numbers or whatever together, which is something that LibreOffice Calc is perfectly capable of. And we just socially don't accept that because we're not used to something different. Now, that's not to say that there's never something that Microsoft can't do, or that LibreOffice can't do that Microsoft can do. But in that same light, I think what you're seeing is more and more things moving to Electron, more and more things moving to the web. And Linux may not really factor into Microsoft's decision, but I think ultimately Microsoft wants everyone to be on Office 365 because I think that's where their revenue model is. The problem with traditional offices, at this point, you can buy. If you go to one of those Reddit sites or whatever, you can buy a copy of Microsoft Office for like $90. It just doesn't net Microsoft a lot of money. Yeah. They're way better off getting people to a yearly.
At this point, you can buy.
I hear myself. Hi there, Noah.
I'm sorry, I'm yelling on the mic.
Yeah, no worries. So does that sort of address what you were talking about?
Yeah, a little bit, but especially when there's another dimension to this that gets kind of like blended in there, and it's more of a subtlety. But maybe sometimes for people, the deal breaker is the polish and the design elements. I mean, when I look at PowerPoint and the elements they're introducing with their latest service versus what presentation is offering, it's design wise. Although I don't agree with it, but I can understand why the guy from the Linux Foundation is actually not using those services when it comes to presentation software.
I mean, that wasn't even true though.
That's number one. Number two, here. So that's right. There's a huge problem that we have with inaccurate reporting to begin with. But here's the second problem. The second problem is that the frustration, because I have voiced frustration with people inside of the Linux community that are not using Linux and open source software. But my frustration is never from the end user who just says, I want to get my job done. My frustration comes from the people that are in power, that have the money, that have the funds, that have the persuasion to say, this is a problem on Linux, let's knock it out, and then choose not to do that while simultaneously telling me that everyone should use Linux. That I have a problem with that sort of hypocrisy, and that's not what happened. But to that end, and to speak to the presentation specifically, and to bring it back to kind of what I was saying before, look at Prezi, which is an online web-based, and it's way more slick than PowerPoint could ever be. And if you've ever seen a Prezi presentation, it makes more sense the way our minds work, the way a presentation flows. It's more aesthetically pleasing. It's more visual. The visuals are better. Everything is just better on Prezi, and it's not. I'm not necessarily a plug for Prezi, but the point is that we can accomplish these things sometimes even more efficiently inside of a web browser than we could on local software, but sometimes our mind just stops us from saying, well, if we're going to give a presentation, it has to be in PowerPoint.
It also seems like there's some different
more vomit-inducing than any of the other presentation software.
Totally.
Like I've heard multiple people watch Prezi presentations and be on the verge of throwing up because of the effects that it introduces. And
visual,
and on the subject of Microsoft, look, it's not a secret that we're in conversation with Microsoft on a number of topics, and if they came to us and said we'd like to deliver Microsoft Office 365 or whatever to your users, we'd be stupid not to try and work with them on a solution that would work, that would make the environment better for all users.
Thank you for admitting that.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with any of that, but at the same time, we also have to acknowledge that if Red Hat, for example, or I suppose we could use Canonical, a company of how many millions of dollars, in Red Hat's case, billions of dollars, with how many different offices and how many different employees, if they can run their business using LibreOffice, I suspect that the vast majority of other businesses, large or small, should be able to do the same thing if they so choose to.
It also seems like there's different,
Two quick
Microsoft has
things, if you
different
don't mind.
incentives.
One, a lot of those enterprise-based environments just have a knack for making workarounds to make it work for them. That's one thing.
Okay.
Number two, if we care enough about, listen, I'll be completely honest with my bias. I want to see Linux. I mean, Linux already has one, but in terms of the consumer space, I want to see it become more of an option, a reality for people on the desktop and also on the mobile. That's a different story. But when it comes to those things like polish, like integration, I think there's over 300 million people in the United States alone. A big chunk of that, when it comes to productivity, use Microsoft Office, and to tell everyone that, hey, the spreadsheets will get you 80% there, and that's okay. I don't know. I think we can do better, and I think we can be more creative. And you talk about options. I would love to see that as an option to say, okay, you can't survive a LibreOffice integration in your environment. Well, here's another option: virtualize Microsoft Word and PowerPoint. And then, by the way, when it comes to a shared drive, you have that integrated in your desktop. So when you save it on the virtual environment, it's also saved, pushed on your native system or something like that, or your ThinkOn, whatever it is.
God, I would love it.
So you're the expert here. Would that be a viable option if the price point is just way too high? If that was for an individual person, what would that be a rate for? Or if that was a business or a small business that wanted to save money on IT costs, but still wanted to have Microsoft Office. So I think the thing that breaks the camel's back is Office.
Yeah, I mean,
I could see it.
I could go either way. I really could. I mean, I think in a lot of ways this is it becomes a cyclical conversation. I do thank you for the call, Joe. Again, 855-450-6624 if you want to join via the phone. We are probably running down the clock a little bit because we've got a couple other things to get to, but if you want to try and chime in there, you certainly could. So Chris, tell me about James Nugent.
Yeah, so this is a friend of the show, a podcast they've put out over at advancedtechmedia.org. And they just did an interview with James Nugent, and James is an interesting fellow. He's across the pond over in I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna give an attempt. I feel like I can get this one. Bath, England.
That'll do.
Yeah,
that's the first. Chris got a pronunciation.
Yeah,
Everyone give him a round of applause.
Yeah, he works at Joynet, which we talk about on this network, especially in the TextNet program and in BSD now. They were recently acquired by Samsung Electronics, and they still are super active in the open source community. He's a core contributor at HashiCorp and Event Store, and he also produces the open source stream database with a built projections system. I don't know what that means, but I would almost listen just to find out.
You almost got it, Chris. It's actually Joyent.
Oh, I know. I always get it wrong. I've always got it wrong. Joyent. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Someday.
Joyent.
This looks like a great podcast. Oh, man.
Yeah. So advancedtechmedia.org, and it's put on by Alexandra and Adam. and they both came to our barbecue meetup that we had a little bit ago. So I thought we should give them a plug.
Well, I know what I'll be doing after the show.
Plug skis. We'll have a link for that, or you can just go to advancedmedia.org. It's episode 9 with James, and he's all in with Joyant or Joynette, however you want to say it. I don't judge.
Were those the guys that did the sous vide?
Yeah. Well, yeah, they were, and I don't know, I don't know if we got actually a chance to eat it during the barbecue because it took so long. That's the problem with the sous vide. But yeah, they did give the go, and they brought the whole unit with the cooler and all of that. So
it was me and Adam.
Yeah. That's right. Bashful Fruit was here too. Of course, Dustin was here as well. Yeah,
Adam and I just came down together.
I love it. So their podcast is at advancedmedia.org. Check it out. Advancedtechmedia.org. Check it out for episode 9.
You know what I would totally recommend to them if they're not doing this already is they should check out TuneIn, because TuneIn it's a really cool service, and what they do is they allow you to basically you can use their infrastructure to have a mobile app that people can listen to your show, or they can listen to a web browser, they can listen to it on the Alexa, all of that kind of stuff. And there's a really cool tool that I really like. It's called EZ Stream. It's a command line based streaming utility that you can use to send an IceCast, either a file or an IceCast stream out to a service. You can just take, a given MP3 and you could put it on a loop. People could go to that TuneIn site and they could they could listen to your show.
You crazy.
And well, here's the thing. The problem is when you're first setting this stuff up, there's like this config file you have to write. And I'll throw the config in the show notes for anyone that wants to play with it. But let me tell you, the first time, here's what it is. It's you install the operating system, you set up the software, and then you try and see if it works. And then you're not quite sure, well, maybe this thing is wrong, or maybe that file is wrong, or maybe I put this in the wrong location. I'll just start over. And then you blow it away, and then you start all over again. You know what the easiest way to do that is? With something like DigitalOcean. Oh. DigitalOcean is Linux on demand. It's like Linux on tap, actually. That's what you could call it. And basically, I can get a Linux server anytime I want it just by going to digitalocean.com. I think at this point, all but 2 of my servers on DigitalOcean are on the $5 droplets. All of them are on the $5 droplets, because the $5 droplets just get you everything you need. Of course, they can go up to $10 droplets, $15 droplets, $20 droplets, but it gets even better, because if you use the code DO Unplugged, then you get free droplets. At least the $5 ones, you can get those for free for 2 months. So if these guys, they want to do a streaming service, so they want to set this up and have a mobile app, they could use Easy Stream. They could go over to DigitalOcean, use that code DO Unplugged, and they'd have a mobile infrastructure for free for the first 2 months. And after that, it's only $5. So how are you getting better than that?
Can't.
DigitalOcean.com. Make sure to use the code DO Unplugged.
Dashboard for days!
Yeah, dashboard. You and your dashboard. We've never said the word dashboard on the Ask Noah show.
No,
I don't think.
No.
You are doing your viewers a disservice, my friend.
Because it's a good dashboard.
It's an amazing dashboard.
You know why? I talk about
Ask Noah dashboard.
You better be talking about the API.
Oh,
then,
you do say.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, you do say that all the time on the show.
Yeah.
That's true.
Oh no. Okay, that ruined it. Yeah, no. But you should finish your thought though. Why is it that you always talk about the dashboard?
I lived in servitude to really hold on. Really bad virtualization UIs, and sometimes like the whole infrastructure, all of it would run on Linux, and then I would have to have a Windows machine to manage it, and it would drive me so crazy.
Well, yeah, because the interface only works in Internet Explorer.
Yeah. Yes. Ow.
What's ActiveX?
Yes.
Internet Explorer 5 or 6, maybe.
Yes. And I suffered through a lot of that in my day, and so now to go to DigitalOcean and have all of it work in whichever browser you want to use on Linux, but more importantly, to have it be better than anything I used. And some of those things, they cost $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 maybe, actually.
Big spender.
Well, it wasn't me. It was the businesses that were buying it, and you ended up with these total crap UIs.
Well, not only that, but it shows that they have total trust in their API because the dashboard is sitting on top of that API.
Yeah, it's pretty great. That's all. That's why I say dashboard.
You know what I thought you were gonna say? I thought you were gonna say, well, I say dashboard because a bunch of people got all upset that I said the word dashboard like twice.
Oh,
and so then they went on this rampage to like Twitter and Reddit and all this other stuff.
That's why I say it now. Day. Yeah, I mean that's why I say it for now. That's why I say it. Yes. Dashboard for days.
So interestingly enough, in this show that I'm guesting with you guys, I'm not the one that puts the new Fedora 27 workstation features in the dock. I feel very ashamed.
We're ahead of the curve over here.
You see, Noah, that's because you're not running Fedora because you hate the distro now.
You're such an Ubuntu apologizer.
It's embarrassing for us.
It took us hardcore Red Hat users here at JB1 to get this straight, and there's. What?
Oh, sorry. Yes, right. Hardcore Red Hat users.
We're back to the good old days. We're back to the good old days of Linux where Fedora and Ubuntu kind of have the same features, but Ubuntu ships a month early. And so it's... So I was like, you remember that? You remember
That's a great setup for Fedora 27.
Do you remember how it used to be like that? Because it's GNOME again. And a lot of the progress comes from GNOME because that's where the Fedora project invests a lot of its time. And so I joke, but at the same time, a huge part of Fedora 27 is it's everything you love about Fedora with GNOME 3.26. But one of the things for me, as somebody who likes to just follow all of this, is this was really the release that marked the end of the alphas. And there's something else that I just anecdotally noticed that I got to give them credit for. Not only did they kill the alphas with this release cycle, but more than I have ever seen I have followed the Fedora project since it was the Fedora project. Literally since I've ever seen this distribution, I have never seen more people anecdotally say across different places that I monitor that this has been the most stable, most reliable beta that they have ever used of the Fedora project. And so not only did they end the alpha sort of release cycle, but they definitely upped their game on the stability of the beta. Because just anecdotally, and this is just my observation, monitoring a lot of different sources, having followed this project since it was just a glimmer in somebody's eye, this seems to be the most stable release they've ever had. Now, I will say, selfishly, what I really like about Fedora 27 is this is the release that really lays the groundwork for Pipewire, which is the new media daemon.
Boy.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, we're excited about that here at Jupiter Broadcasting because this is something that we think Linux really needs to be competitive with macOS on the video editing side. And it was something just a year or two ago I thought would never happen. And so the fact that the Fedora project is taking this on, they will for the rest of my life have my respect.
And taking it seriously. I mean, they recognize that this is something Linux community needs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it has been something that I thought would never come to bear because it seemed like it would take like this huge multi-project, multi-distro cooperation. But I think Pipewire, the way they're doing it is it's humble. It's a good, steady, slow approach. So in Fedora 27, it's nothing major. It's just going to handle screen sharing and screen capture under GNOME Shell. It's like laying the fundamental groundwork, and of course, it's the groundwork to support these functions under Wayland, which couldn't be done before. So I really like the way they're approaching Pipewire. The KDE version of Fedora hasn't seen a lot. They've switched to 5.91 for Qt 5, and there's a few other things. But Christian's joining us. He's there. He is very dutifully filling in at the very last moment to join us from the Fedora project to talk about some of the new features. So Christian, welcome to Linux Unplugged. And I know I've mentioned a couple of features, but I bet I missed some feature of Fedora 27 that is deserved of mention.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. Yeah, I think you mentioned some important things, and I mean, I think you were joking about that. We're a month late, but on the other hand, we spent that last month fixing a lot of last-minute bugs in GNOME, so hopefully it's a bit more stable too. For instance, there are a lot of multi-monitor issues that we were hammering on to the last minute to get sorted.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that really stuck out at me when we installed Fedora 27 is it is a straight-up showcase for GNOME, for like upstream GNOME, and it's the background is gorgeous, and the transparent bar up top. That it's a beautiful default theme for Fedora. It's a great showcase for stock GNOME.
Yeah, no, thank you. I mean, I think one of the features I would love to highlight a bit, which is almost sort of on the side, is that this is also the first release really where we have Fleet Commander available. Which is our new tool for administrating a large number of desktops.
Oh, okay. So Fleet Commander. So is Fleet Commander?
You haven't played with Fleet Commander?
No, I've played with Cockpit. Is it related to Cockpit or is it a separate thing?
It's an extension of Cockpit. So when you have Cockpit installed and Fleet Commander, you will actually see a link where you can click into Fleet Commander from Cockpit. So it's but of course, while Cockpit of course was written and it's mainly targeted at doing server administration, Fleet Commander is all about administrating desktops.
Oh, nice.
And I mean the background for Fleet Commander actually was we had a discussion actually a couple of years ago in house where we were saying that if you ever want to see, for instance, Linux making headway in corporate settings against Windows, we need to come up with something that's a bit more accessible to people than telling them to write scripts, figure out how different command and tools work on Linux to configure stuff, and instead have something that's all graphical and one-click deploy and it integrates with people's directory services.
Christian, I have to be honest. This is the dichotomy I have with the damn Fedora project right here. You guys have Cockpit, you have Fleet Commander, you have Atomic, you have Fedora Cloud, you have all of these things that would make Fedora so frickin' perfect for deploying in production, except for that fact that the Fedora releases are only supported for a few months, and then I gotta upgrade. Like, this is the dichotomy I just can't get over.
Yeah, but I mean, what we've done there, because I mean, you're not the first person, of course, who complain about that. But I mean, for me, Fedora is definitely like the distro we're targeting towards enthusiast users, developers, and people who want to get the news right away, straight off the press.
Yeah.
And at the same point, of course, I know people were not so happy with CentOS or RHEL because I felt it was like, okay, it's fine, new RHEL out, but then as the years go by, it becomes a bit long in the tooth for a desktop user. So what we did switch for in RHEL 7 is this model where we're actually updating the desktop in RHEL and CentOS, of course, as a result of that every second release.
Okay.
So that way you get a fresh desktop experience continuously. So that's also what I'm telling people when I said, hey, I want a more long-term thing. I said, like, well, I know that historically things like CentOS might not have appealed to you or getting a RHEL subscription just because you didn't want to be there at the .6 release and feel that you were using the desktop from 10 years ago. But that's no longer true. With RHEL now, you're getting a brand new desktop every second release, and every odd release we're updating a lot of the major applications there.
Okay.
And I think as we go forward, this solid strategy will call it come into focus a bit more, because I mean one of the big goals I hope that we will achieve with things like Flatpaks is that we suddenly can create like an application stream that's independent of both Fedora and RHEL, so that you no longer have this sort of tight link between like which application version you have and which desktop version you have.
Sure.
Instead you just have hey, I want the latest GIMP and I can deploy it either on Fedora or on RHEL or of course RHEL anywhere else.
Good point. That's a really good point. Is this may be a non-issue once that's in the pipeline. So I have so many things to ask you about, and I don't know which you'd rather answer. So I'm going to throw two at you. Actually, how about three? Christian, I'm going to give you three questions, and whichever one you feel more comfortable answering, you go for. So number one is, what are your thoughts on GNOME's position about the system tray icons? To quote the Fedora project workstation release notes, the quote-unquote antiquated system tray has been removed to reduce visual clutter. So that's question one, is what are your thoughts on that? Question two, if you'd rather answer this, is some big changes in Fedora Atomic, including the support for Kubernetes, have been introduced, which seems like a huge... That
was one of the things I was most excited about.
Yeah, that seems like a huge change there. And then also some badass support for trim support on encrypted disks. I know that's three totally different topics, Christian, but since you haven't, I just thought I'd toss you those three, and you pick which one's the best for you to answer.
Well, I think the last one is sort of outside my scope. I mean, just to give you a little background on who I am, I'm actually the senior manager for desktop graphics, i8n, and Fedora inside Red Hat.
All right, great to meet you then.
So of course, so even though of course the Fedora team that I manage are in charge of all the Fedora editions, of course, due to all the other groups being desktop oriented, that's sort of usually where my focus ends up being. So I don't necessarily have a lot of insight into, call it, these other parts of Fedora. So
I'm also interested in just your opinions too. So you don't feel like when you come on the show you have to have like, I'm speaking on behalf of the Fedora project. I'm just interested in your opinion as a Linux user too.
Yeah. I mean, to take the system tray. I mean, I think it was something that was signaled for a long time that they wanted to stop having people use these status icons because they were using an old extender that was problematic in terms of focus and many other things.
Yeah.
And so they tried to do this thing where we sent up an announcement saying, hey, eventually this will be deprecated. And of course nobody ever moved on those deprecation notices.
But do you think? But what makes you think anybody will move now?
Well, the hope is, of course, that once it's not a default feature that you have to install the extension if you want the system tray, it will motivate. And at the same time, we do have an active outreach effort at the moment, working with various vendors who are still using the system tray to try to basically say, hey, this is a better way of doing it.
Well, that's good. Yeah, that's nice. I mean, so I'm glad to hear about the outreach. So the thing that crosses my mind is that here's where it gets sticky. And I know you're not speaking officially, just in your opinion. It seems to me like if the position is we need to stop doing this in the meantime, use an extension. But oh, by the way, that extension's totally going to break in version 4. I mean, that is a particular sticky situation, don't you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. And what I guess was not very well communicated was that, at least, speaking for the team I managed at Red Hat, I mean, we took ownership of making sure that extension works in Fedora.
Okay.
And thus, I mean, it's a community extension, but of course, if we see that it breaks, we will fix it to make sure it works.
So if I install that on Fedora, is that coming from the Fedora repository?
No, it does come from the upstream extension repository, but we will go there and fix it.
If the guys officially announced that he was not going to continue maintaining it.
So we saw that. So I mean, as I said, we will to
as
a degree that
as
it
a
needs
project,
fixing,
you're
we
going to
will
keep
fix it.
Okay.
And I mean,
do you have any background on that decision? That's awesome to hear that. Thank you for telling me that. But do you have any background on did the project did Fedora debate? This is something we need to do, or how did that come about? Because I had no idea about this.
No, I mean, well, we had a decision that we knew there were some people who had, an odd application where they still acquired a system tray. I mean, I have to say though, I have a couple applications that still use a system tray icon, but I have forgotten about them, right? Because even with the old UI, they were sort of hidden in that little weird corner down at the bottom.
Yeah.
So the amount of applications that build their UI in a way that require it are quite few and far between these days. And the few we know about is the ones we're trying to work the hardest with to get moving to a different setup. But in terms of what discussion we had inside Fedora and Red Hat was like, hey, okay, we know that this needs to be there, and of course we need to step up and make sure it keeps working because. Well, at the end of the day, right, a lot of these things, end up also in RHEL, and thus we have to make sure our paying customers have things that work.
Having thought about it for a couple of weeks, I agree. They are kind of user hostile in a sense. And the thing is if we're all honest with ourselves, it's a paradigm that was forced upon us from Windows, and it's one that we just adopted on Linux to fit in. And it kind of sucks. It really actually sucks. And so I'm not opposed to figuring out a better way of doing it. And I think it's pretty decent of the Fedora project to say we're going to try to work upstream to keep this thing working, and that sounds like it would work for all GNOME users too, not just necessarily Fedora.
No, exactly.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That's cool. And also going back to the GNOME 3 thing, since that's not going to be deprecated for a while anyway, so the support for this extension will still have a long life, even though the guy's not maintaining it. It's still he also said it's going to still be around for a very long time.
Yeah. So I'll just touch on this point just to follow back because people that heard it might be wanted to know more. So trim support has been around in Fedora for a little while now, but the thing that's really great now is that Fedora 27 has introduced trim support for encrypted disks, which I know Noah's going to care a lot about because it's going to greatly enhance the performance of Fedora Workstation on SSDs that use encryption. And I know that's got to be you, Brown Bear.
Absolutely. I don't own a computer that doesn't have an SSD anymore. Everything has either an SSD or is NVMe, which, SSD. But so everything is, and everything is going that way too, right? I strongly suspect that for the rest of the time that I ever buy laptops, I'm not going to buy a computer with spinning Rust in it. I mean, that's just the reality of 2017. Hey guys, I want to give one last plug, 855-450-6624. That's the phone number. You can join us live on the air for a special edition of Linux Unplugged. Jay is calling. Hey Jay, you're on Linux Unplugged. What's on your mind?
Hey, I'm calling about Well, I'm doing tech support for. So I was one client that I do freelance, and I work as a software developer actually, but I still have one client that I do freelance that I'm good friends with, the CEO, and I was wondering how I could resolve issues where I make mistakes and I don't feel like I should bill for them. How do you handle that? If you make a mistake and you spend a lot of extra time doing something, and then you feel like you shouldn't bill them, but you still spent the time to get it done.
Yeah, so part of that, Jay, though, it's an ethics question, right? And the way I answer ethics questions is I simply do the moccasin test. Put the other person's moccasins on and walk a mile in their shoes and see how you feel. So, for example, if they asked you, they said, we want you to come install a router for us so that we can get our 4 front desk machines on the internet. So what you should do is take the router out of the box and plug it into the modem and turn it on and plug all the computers in. And they should just come online. That's what you need to do. And you build a client for like an hour of time. And instead you pull it out of the box and, unbeknownst to you, maybe you inadvertently shut the web interface off and you can't figure out how to turn it back on, and you're trying to get in, you're trying to SSH in. So you're calling the manufacturer. What's the default password for the SSH? Oh yeah. Well, I don't know what version I have. And you're doing that dance, right? And so lo and behold, you spent 4 hours doing it. If you were the client, would you want to get billed for 4 hours of work for that while your IT guy learned how to do his job right? No, of course not. But at the same time, if you get called in and the client says, yeah, our internet went down, we don't know what to do. And you say, well, I've never been here before. Tell me the layout. Where's your network documentation? Who was the last guy that worked for you? And they say, yeah, we don't know anything about that. Listen, it's that closet at the end. No, that's where your breaker room is. Well, whatever. Then it's the other one over there, that closet. Yeah, okay, that's the right one. So where's the documentation? We don't have any documentation. There's the owner's manuals. I think if that's what you're looking for, those are in there. Now, if you're spending time resetting username and passwords and you're spending time tracing wire connections, that's not, absolutely you should bill for that. And that comes down to, again, how would you want to be treated? And so, and sometimes you take a hybrid approach too. Sometimes you get so far into something, like maybe you're tracing a cable and you get to a point and you say, I'm an idiot. I should have known that this cable would run to that switch room, or I should have looked for if there was another switch closet. That may be your fault. That may be something you feel guilty about. But at the same time, unless you were told about that, you're perfectly within your right, I would say, to build a client. And a lot of times what I'll do in those circumstances is I'll kind of do my no affair billing. So if I look at something and I said, well, I was technically here for 6 hours, but I think I got about 4 hours. I think I delivered 4 hours of work. I'm only going to bill that client for 4 hours. And especially there's a particular client we work for, and they pay me, or they would pay me if I billed them for it. They would pay me hundreds of dollars to stand in front of locked doors, because they have this idiotic policy that the security guy is the only guy that can come unlock a door for me. And so I walk up to the door and I stand there and I call in the front desk and I say, yeah, I need somebody to come. It's ridiculous. And so if I was billing them, and I would say I'm within my right. If I'm standing there for 15 minutes every time I need to get through a door, I would be within my right to bill them our $75 an hour. And I don't, mostly because I value their business and I like the owner and I understand why those security principles are in place given the nature of their business. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, because we like to, try and give my customers the kind of service that I would like to have, and I knew that if someone made a mistake and they were just spinning the wheels for a couple hours, I wouldn't want to get billed for that. And at the same time, I spent time on it, and I did get it done. But it's just. Yeah,
I hear you. It's kind of an interesting thing to thread. Mumble Room, do you have any thoughts? Is the answer I gave, is that how most of you feel, or somebody have a different opinion?
I agree. It depends on how much of your mistake, like how much of a setback is your mistake. If it's something that's not that big of a deal, that maybe costs you an extra 30 minutes of time and work, you could say that's something you could just kind of throw in. But if it's something that I think if you cause the problem that gives you yourself an extra 4 hours, I think you shouldn't really charge for that if the mistake was solely on your fault, but it was not, a lack of information or something. Like maybe you configured something and you come back an hour later and you realize, oh, you have to start all over again.
This is why you build research into your contract. You build a few hours of research in.
Yeah. Yeah, and you pad, and that's the thing too is, and I explain this to people a lot. I'll say, if we're gonna quote something, we're gonna quote high. And some people, they're put. I'm serious.
Yeah, overbill, right? Overbid
yes,
and underbill.
100% every time. And no, we don't underbill. If I go into a place, and I'm being honest, if I go into a place and I think something's going to take 10 hours to do, we're going to bill that client for 12, or we're going to estimate them for 12 or 15. And the reason for that is because I've done this long enough to know that things come up. And on the off chance that something doesn't come up, well, that just offsets the number of times that something did come up and we went 10 hours over. And like you said, after a while, you start to budget that in and you start to get a good feel of it. But if you, and we'll do real-time billing. We do that. If you say, just come and do this job, fine, we'll do it, and we'll let you know at the end how long it actually took, and we'll bill you for that. But if you want us to stay, because it goes both ways. If I'm going to go in and I'm going to sign my name to something saying we will only bill you for this many hours, well, I'm going to make sure that we don't lose money on it. That's just the way we do things. But more often than I'm worried about not losing money, I'm worried about saving my clients money. And and one of the ways I've done that recently, and this was actually with a law firm, we recommended them with Ting. And Ting, if you're not familiar with it, is a mobile service provider where you own the service and you own the device. I remember the first time I switched to Ting, instantly I knew, well, there's two things I knew. First of all, I knew that any service that had a URL of linux.ting.com, and when I went to that linux.ting.com, it saved me money. If somebody's going to give $25 to go to a Linux URL, that right off the bat, I knew that was a good thing. But then after I started to get involved with Ting, and I was previously on a big name carrier, and they sent me the phone, and it felt like my phone, because they're not locked phones. They're not locked to Ting. You can take it to any service you want, and vice versa. You can go to Best Buy and buy any phone you want. And bought my son an Asus. Do you remember what that was, Chris? He showed it to you when we were in Minneapolis. Zenfone. I bought him an Asus Zenfone at Best Buy, and I'd anticipated this, so I'd activated the Ting SIM card, which I have on hand. I have like 10 or 15 of them that I keep around, just and we get out to the car, and my son goes, as soon as he opens the box, I knew this was coming. He goes, Dad, this thing doesn't have internet. How do we get it internet? And I'm like, I got you, buddy. I got you. Here's your SIM card. And I just handed him a SIM card. And with Ting's dashboard, I said it, dashboard. The dashboard allows me to control how much data he uses, how many minutes he uses, and how many messages he sends. And so I've gone in there and said he doesn't need to be texting anyone. There's nobody he knows that he would know how to text. He doesn't need to do that. We want everything over Telegram, where I can monitor his communications. I don't care if he calls people, but I don't want it to last. He never needs more than 100 minutes. If he accidentally inadvertently dials something and just leaves the phone sitting for 3 days, I don't want a big bill.
He's either going to be calling you, Sarah, or my son. Right.
And Telegram. Yeah, exactly. And so they're only pay for what you use, and the ability for that granular type control. Absolutely fantastic. Linux.ting.com, and huge thanks to Ting for sponsoring the Linux Unplugged program. So I have a article. I don't know if you saw this, Chris. I threw it in here kind of last minute, but
I like it.
There is a gentleman by the name of Tommy Jordan. Really like the guy, and basically he has a website that he runs called 8 Minutes of Fame. It's a long story about that relates to a YouTube video that kind of cast him into the limelight unexpectedly. But he wrote a very interesting article about encryption, and basically the article starts out and it says, "We've seen it plastered all over national news these last 2 years. The encryption debate between tech companies and civilians wanting to keep their data private while being weighed against the government's desire to gain access to anything and everything that can be hunt to stop the terrorists." Now he goes on to say, and he outlines this very, very well. He says the government argues that these kinds of data being hidden behind encryption provides important clues that they need to stop terrorists. The data that they're able to retrieve out of a cell phone, tablet, or encrypted message can be viewed in simple terms, and I think that I can give you an inclusive list. And then he lists them. So what things can we get out of encryption? Well, it says we can get where they have been, so the GPS location, when they were there, so when they were there, the timestamp, what they read online, so the browsing history, stuff like that, who they've talked to, Messenger, Telegram, email, contact lists, etc. How they've communicated, analyzing which apps they've used, and all that stuff, and then the contextual conversations of the email, and then they show what files that they've downloaded onto the device. But the one key thing that is missing out of all that stuff that we could get if we just done away with encryption. If we just turned encryption off, and it is an on-off thing, and he goes so far to explain and to make a real big point about that the government keeps saying they want reasonable encryption. There is no such thing as reasonable encryption. It's a light switch. The light is either on or the light is off. There is no in between. And if your argument is, but no, what they're talking about is they're saying that they want encryption that's weak enough that the government only can crack. Well, then it's not encryption. It's not actually encrypted if the government can get into it. Try and hold a light switch in the middle of the thing, and it's either on or off. But what the important thing is, even if we do away with encryption, if we turn that light switch off, you know what the one thing we don't ever get? Why? Why did somebody do this? Why did somebody send this message? Why does somebody feel this way? And the why is the most important aspect of it, because the why tells you what they're going to do, and and all of that. So
I'll say this. So this is a big problem for open source projects, and I haven't really figured out how to talk about it yet, because I don't know how to talk about it without seeming like I need to get like a tinfoil hat and I need to run around about the sky falling, because to me, I don't understand how the U.S. government is going to institute laws about how encryption is implemented that affect open source projects that are developed all over the world by contributors.
They can't.
Yeah, I just don't understand how can open source comply with anything, and anything that the U.S. just decrees encryption must follow. These projects are built by people all over the world.
Yeah.
And people that largely couldn't care, people that largely not only don't care what the U.S. government thinks, but largely want to combat what the U.S. government thinks, and the reason that encryption exists in the first place.
That's true, I suppose, or have no reason to give a shit.
Not only that,
yeah.
But there are other governments that they also might have to comply with that want the opposite.
Well, and if the U.S. government decides it wants it, well, then how soon after that does China and Russia and all the other governments want it?
Honestly, it doesn't matter if every government in the world wants it, because what you're fundamentally trying to do is put a genie back in a bottle. It's just, this to me seems like the same argument is when a celebrity has pictures that are leaked and then they say, we want to start taking them down. Yeah, right. Don't look at them.
Well, I think what they're going to ask for, and when I say they, I mean the U.S. government, is they're going to ask for some sort of escrow system, where they're not going to say, give us the keys, give us the back door, put it in an escrow. And then when we have a lawful, when the FISA court gives us the lawful right to peek, we will go to this escrow and we will activate the back door. So they'll go to Apple.
Hold on a second. Where's my rubber stamp? It's around here somewhere. Oh, there it is. Okay.
They'll go to Apple, they'll go to Google, and they say, with your messaging platforms, and they'll eventually go to Telegram and WhatsApp and all of them that they can. And only the systems like Wire and Signal that are better designed will be immune from this. Everything else, Skype's already a victim, and Slack, I'm sure, will be subject to this.
Do you know, the thing is, though, the people that care are going to know. I mean, it's not going to be a secret. I mean, it's a secret the first time. And then after the first person is convicted or their messages are decrypted, then the cat's out of the bag, and then everyone that cares about keeping their stuff private is going to move to something else.
I kind of want to hear.
It seems like a one-burn match.
I would like to hear from somebody from the Mumble Room who maybe is even outside the U.S. a bit, or inside the U.S. is fine. But this is something that's going to affect the whole world.
Yeah, to make actually one point there, though. I mean, I have no direct knowledge about this, but I mean, what the U.S. government or any government can do, right? They can enforce what local companies do. And so, I mean, it's not just about stopping, Osama bin Laden kind of guys here. I mean, it's also about catching white-collar criminals, for instance, in big banks or whatever. And of course, if you have policies in place that enforces this bank to, for instance, provide any encryption key they use to escrow, that means that they can get to, the email exchanges, whatever that's happened inside that company.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't mean to be the cynical person of the room, but to me it seems like anybody who wants to break the law in any significant way is going to be hip enough to realize they shouldn't use any system that's been proactively tapped by the U.S. government. They'll use a system outside of that, and there will always be systems outside of that. And the only people subject to monitoring will be the standards, regular old Joe Schmoes.
Let me pose another question to you guys. One of the problems with giving up encryption is that if you had a guy, and this is the article, I'm not coming up with this. This is in the article. If a guy goes through an airport and he is caught trying to bomb that airport, and they take him down and they search his person and they find a camera, I don't think anyone in this room would argue that that camera is not pertinent to the investigation of why this guy was trying to blow up the airport. It might contain evidence, right? We agree on that. But the camera might only contain 30 or 40 pictures. When we start talking about they want access to, you know, your Google Photos, we're not talking about the last 30 or 40 pictures you took. You're talking about everything you've ever done, the entire scope of your life.
When you're talking about the phone, right? You're talking about every Wi-Fi access point.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're
exactly. And so who out there legitimately thinks that any government has the right that once you commit one crime, because of that one and actually really you're accused of committing a single crime, who out there actually believes that the government should get unfettered access to your entire digital life, which is more and more of our actual lives these days? Who actually thinks that's fair?
I would say it's a bigger problem than that, though, because we can all decide as a democracy that and the Republic of the United States, we could all decide that's fine. The land of the brave and the free, that we want to be screened, we want our devices scanned, we want everything downloaded. That is totally fine. 100% as a democracy, we've decided it's great. I'm talking like in the future, we've decided we are going to trade all of our freedoms for security. The thing is, that doesn't necessarily mean that the citizens of Canada want to live that way. And the problem that open source has to address here is, how do we serve a market as huge as the United States that has all of these crazy laws that are essentially 1984 draconian laws that the rest of the world, except for Iran and Russia and Syria, those countries have these laws in place. But outside of that, no other modern democracy has these kinds of laws in place. So how do we serve the United States and everywhere else? And I don't understand how you're going to have people that can contribute to one common code base that have significantly different laws that they have to adhere to can work together. I don't understand how you can ship one distribution for the US and one distribution for Canada when we have significantly different encryption laws that fundamentally mean backdoors into encryption versus no backdoors.
I mean, Chris, it's really easy. You just have a setting in the settings. You flip a switch between
totally crappy encryption versus good encryption.
American weak encryption and world encryption.
The solution is obviously turning all the U.S. laws into internet laws, and everybody has to associate to
that. And we'll all go by UTC. And metric.
Well, that's the one logical thing I've heard in this conversation. But no, it's going to be something interesting, because this to me seems like it's largely one of those things that is a driving force in one direction. I very seldom see the government reversing its opinion and suddenly deciding, well, actually, we're not going to push to try and break encryption. And the one thing that we have working in our favor is this is the one time when market reality and social reality doesn't really mean anything, where really it's about the technical advantages. That's really what matters. So
there's actually a funny thing about one of the recent releases from from the current government is that they are saying that they're kind of pulling back on not wanting the encryption broken, but just make copies of everything so we can look at them later anyway.
Yeah. Well, it's like I said, it's one of those things that I think as long as we have the technical superiority in our corner, I think we're going to be sitting good. Hey guys, thanks so much for joining us for this episode. I really appreciated letting me guest host with you. That'll put this episode of Linux Unplugged in the books. You can follow us on Twitter @WestPayne, @ChrisLAS. Follow the network @JBLive. I'm @KernelLinux, and of course @RakaiLP. Oh, there's a message coming up. There we go. There's Telegram. Okay, thanks so much. Make sure, check out JupiterBroadcasting.com. You'll find the schedule for the show as well as all of the show times. Check me out, AskNoahShow.com. And see you next week.
Negative in the freedom dimension.
Something tells me you like having the ability to scream like a madman without it actually winding up in a recording.
No,
that
no,
matters.
I like it. No,
I don't
was
think I've
going
ever
for it.
heard that long into the outro before.
I was
I've
going
never
for
heard
it.
it
I
end.
felt like I was just jiving with it. It was good. It was good. I like it.
You, what did you say, Wes?
I was free
Did I play the wrong one?
No,
I'm
you're
just
good.
we just never we cut it off before.
We
then.
usually talk, or sometimes I just hard cut it. You know,
we tend to talk.
Oh,
over it.
really?
Sometimes.
Oh, you don't let that nice grad. That's such a good fade.
I know it's good though. It's good, right? I mean, I did originally build that fade to just let it play out, but then you know, in the last 30 weeks or so, we've started talking over it. Yeah. It's just something
we
that
just
happens.
can't shut up because everything's too much fun.
That's what the thing is. Yeah. All right.
Not
well-
only did I let it play out, then I gave it a good 1 or 2 seconds before I started talking, so Rakai has a nice tight cut point.
All right, so we got to pick a title. Oh yeah.
Oh, I haven't participated in this process in a long time. Ooh, I'm gonna do this.
Well, the process is kind of convoluted now.
You just go over to the
is it really?
Well, you go to the Discord, you search for your Bang Suggest, and then you can also go to JB Titles for the chat room. Yeah.
So you can't do it's not JB Titles anymore?
I'm sorry, you can go to both.
Oh, you can do both. Oh.
So you got to search the the Discord for Bang Suggest, because you can just, it turns out Discord has a great search. So you just search for Bang Suggest and you just see all of them in one result. And then JB Titles for, you know, like the bot action.
I'm not liking any of these titles.
Yeah. Well, what do you think we should go with? What anybody in the moment?
Fedora Quantum Leap.
That's not bad, but that was a very small part of the
Hey, yeah,
show.
thank you, Christian, for joining us.
That's a combo thing.
I don't know if was there a big part of the show?
Hey, before we
Yeah,
get out
probably
of the
not.
post show, because I wanted to mention in the main show that Dan here from Elementary OS was just recently over on Late Night Linux, had a great interview. They gave him a few hard questions, and he had some great answers. So if you want to hear Dan have to answer some tough questions, go check out Late Night Linux. Do you remember what episode number it was, Dan? You know,
That's a great question.
You know what I'm going to do, Dan? What I'm going to do is while you and I look it up, is I'm just going to fill a little bit of airtime, and by doing so, I'm just going to sit here and talk for a few moments, because what you want to do, right, is you want to Google it real quick.
Because 24 episode 24, everyone.
Hey, good job. Yeah, episode 24 of Late Night Linux has this here Dan the Rabbit in there, and he answers the hard questions about Elementary OS that have been on your mind.
By the way, we forgot something for the Mozilla review. There's a new chapter in the book of Mozilla right now with the quantum release. It's now chapter 11:14. You know the story about that.
Well, Chapter 11 here in the United States, I think, means
bankruptcy.
That's not a good thing.
You open the Mozilla browser and you type in about:Mozilla, and you will get a chapter which normally tells you about the release and the time of the release. So if you have version 16, it starts with the twins of Mem and Queralt, and now with the new version, the book of Mozilla is 11:14, which started the beast adopted new raiment and studied the ways of time and space and light, and it goes on like that.
Whoa,
it's
mine's
some
changed.
kind
It
of
says
Easter
15:1.
egg. It's some kind of Easter egg.
Mine doesn't say that. It says 15:1.
Hey guys, Jordanism from the chat room suggested, remember when JB cared about IRC? That really seems like that'd be appropriate for the title, don't you think? That seems like that'd be a really fucking good title for this episode. Really fucking perfect.
I think it really exemplifies what happened in the episode.
Yeah.
I think we talked about it a lot throughout the episode.
You know,
There's
it's
a lot of
really
good
it's really
discussion.
respectful for all of the work that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 people put into this week's episode.
And all the topics we covered.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Jordan. Thank you.
Oh boy.
I wanted to kick Chris's nostalgia a little bit, because you'd mentioned OpenSUSE in the box. It actually didn't come with one book; it came with two. So it came with the user manual. But then it, I don't remember when they started doing this, but they put a second book in there with all the printed man pages.
That's what it was. I couldn't remember. I thought so. Good memory. Good recollection. Do you have like a box around it? Have you looked at a box recently? How did you remember that?
No, I don't have my box anymore, and that's depressing. I threw it away.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah, that's what she said. What do we have here?
Man, printed man pages. That sounds really nice, though. Just keep it right on your desk, thumb through it.
That's about
Super
Mozilla.
amazing.
We're totally searchable. I love it.
Well, okay, so we got to title this thing. We gotta get a name for this thing because this is going off the rails.
I tell you what, Chris, I got a real,
Unplugged?
I got a real crash course in installing applications in Fedora.
Oh yeah, we should talk about that. The Beard had to install a few apps on Fedora for the show today. We didn't even get to that.
It's a lot less Fedora than I expected.
I installed apps via 5 different methods, or attempted to anyway. First, you have the normal DNF
software. Oh, okay.
And
you
then,
didn't go GUI first?
Who goes GUI for
Yeah,
installing
I don't-
software?
Come on,
I
Chris.
don't know.
I mean,
But people that like to install software with ease?
It's for people who like
I
to
don't
mess
know.
with computers.
DNF is pretty easy. And plus, the other thing is 3 of the methods don't have ways to do it via the software.
Oh, okay.
I
So-
was pleased that Slack had an RPM I could easily install. That was nice.
Yeah. Okay.
The second thing I tried, and this was actually pretty easy, to get Chrome installed, you just add the third-party Chrome repo from Google.
Are you telling me they have a repo for Fedora?
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
they did the same thing for Debian as well.
I got to be honest with you. I'm sorry, guys, but Firefox.
The the third method.
Firefox is the best,
Ooh.
obviously, for sure.
The third method, which I managed to get nothing installed via, is Copper.
Oh. So okay, that was no good.
No. The fourth method was enabling RPM Fusion. That was to get Telegram installed.
Mm.
Oh, nice.
And
Okay.
the fifth method, because I could not get Discord via RPM Fusion or Copper, was that I also had to use Flatpaks.
Oh my
so
God.
I enabled a FlatHub, and I installed that via the software stuff.
Okay, so let's back up for a second. So what did you say before Discord? What did you install before Discord?
Telegram.
How did the Telegram thing go down? How does that work? So what did you do to get Telegram working?
RPM Fusion.
So you added a repo?
Yes.
So you did like a DNF command, you series of DNF commands?
Yeah.
And then did you install it via the command line? Or did you install it via the software center?
Command line.
Okay. And then the last thing you installed was
Discord.
And you installed that via Flatpak. But you added a repo for Flatpak.
Yeah, I enabled FlatHub.
And did you install it then after that via the command line or via GNOME software?
GNOME software.
Interesting. So now it just shows
Because I actually couldn't figure out how to install it via the command
So
line.
you added the Flatpak repo, and then you opened GNOME software and you searched for Discord,
Yep.
and then Discord
it
showed up.
It told me that the source was FlatHub.
Oh, interesting.
And when you want to install Flatpak from the command line, you also have to include the repo in the Flatpak command.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of that. It's a little convoluted, but
Yeah, that seems counterintuitive. Like, I already added the repo. Why is it not just searching the enabled repos?
yeah. Welcome to PPAs. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. This is
PPAs don't require you to tell the repo after you have it installed, though. So
no, but you do have to do an update, right? So you add the PPA, you add the key when you
It's
add
true.
and then you have to do an apt update, and then you have to do the install. It feels a lot like PPA.
Yeah, but with Flatpaks, you have to, every time you install the app, you have to specify the repo URL.
That's true.
Yep.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
But everyone should use a UI anyway. That's how we designed it.
Say again.
Everyone should use GNOME software. I mean, that's the whole point here, to
Right.
move away from needing command line tools.
It definitely does feel like that. Like the whole thing is pretty
there's not a
straightforward
GUI
if you
way
just
to install the repo, though, right?
Well, that's true. Yeah, adding the repo, you still drop to the command line.
Yeah, I the reason I tried to do it via the command line was because I was already on the command line to add the repo.
I don't think there is a way in GNOME software to add it through add a FlatHub anyway.
Yeah, that does seem like something that needs to get. I guess that does feel like a feature that needs to be added because
It'd be nice.
Yeah. I actually
one thing we're looking to do there, actually, since we're on the subject, is we are going to start pre-populating this database with various repos. So that the setup will be that when you start Fedora, since it's meant to be all free software, you'll get a question as part of the initial setup saying, hey, do you want to enable third-party repositories? And if you say yes, a lot of these things like Chrome and Steam and NVIDIA driver and so on will just be pre-populated for you to download.
That's wonderful. Yeah, Yeah, it seems like a decent solution. Like the more I see distributions implementing Flatpak, the more I see how it really does make sense for a lot of different uses for open source software.
Yeah, I think if I do use Fedora in the future, I'm going to start with FlatHub.
Yes, exactly. That's what I would do too now.
Because it seems like it has most of what I wanted. Like I actually just searched Telegram in GNOME software, and now there's 2 different versions I have, one from FlatHub and one from RPM Fusion.
And then the fact is you can still get snaps working on there too.
Yeah.
So that kind of covers some of the other space. And then it's like, well, what do you have left that isn't covered by those 2 things? And the list
Chrome.
is well, but thankfully they package it for the distro you want.
Yeah.
I mean, they're doing that work now. But
Right, yeah.
I could see if one of these things takes off either way, I could see Google changing that.
If Fedora supported both Snap and Flatpak, then that would solve most of the issues of packaging entirely.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll use AppImage for everything else.
Oh,
right, there you go.
Hey, Noah.
Yes, sir.
You ready to hit stop?
At your service.
Are you ready to hit stop on the recording?
I am, but we have, no, we don't need the title recorded. Okay,
Yeah.
yes, I'm ready whenever
Alright.
you are.
3, 2, 1, stop.
Okay, I stopped it.
Okay, so now we just
Before
need
or
to...
hey, okay, hold on. So before I forget, hey Rikai, so there are going to be 3 files. The first file is the pre-show. The second file was a false start when I thought I was supposed to record, but then I realized that we hadn't done the counting thing, so it's a false start. And then the third one is the actual one. Okay, cool.
So there's 2 files. All right.
I've totally never done that to Recap.
If the show doesn't come out, it's because I quit.
And on top of that,
Well,
to make things more difficult, locally here on our network is also the pre-show.
Yeah.
But I guess it's 1 file. So we just got to pick our title, and then I think our homework here is done. The TechSnap show is going to be
Friday at 9 a.m.
Friday?
I know, it's a weird one.
A Friday show at 9 a.m.
Well, we were like, people normally don't.
How do you like that, Beard? How do you like?
They don't get any, wonderful
You know-
Friday shows anymore.
How do you like that one?
And Rikai doesn't have a beautiful thing to edit on Friday.
I totally don't edit a show
Not
all
user
day
error.
Friday.
That's when we edit user error, but it's cool. We'll make it work, right? Yeah. It's cool. You know welcome to live production, everybody.
That's right.
Hey, Chris, I think I deserve a raise, and Wes is going to pay for it.
It'll be entirely in peanuts.
In burgers. All right, so what do we think? I feel like we need to give mention to Fedora 27 and also or Fedora and Firefox. Like, is there a way to make like a
What
combo?
if we just say like
Fedora Quantum Leap?
Fedora, but the thing is there's not a lot of not a lot of leaping.
The quantum part, we're for Firefox, and you get the Fedora part.
Hang on.
I know, but it's not like that implies like Fedora just made some huge change.
We could,
but yeah, it's called clickbait, Chris. You're welcome.
Pro tip up
All
in
right.
here.
Yeah, all right, okay. This guy's been paying attention.
So what if we just do Quantum Leap Forward, and that can reference Quantum?
Yeah, but see, then everybody's just gonna think we're talking Firefox.
But it could also reference the GNOME changes. It could also reference Fedora stuff.
See, the thing is
Fedora super confusing to people who are thinking it's OpenSUSE.
So what yours was Fedora's Quantum Leap? Was that your title?
Yeah.
Was that your title?
Not Fedora's, just Fedora Quantum Leap. It's just like you make them think what it is, but then you're like,
yeah, but then anybody that doesn't care about Fedora is just gonna walk away.
I don't know if that's true.
It's a tough thing to title.
Okay, Fedora fanboy.
This is the guy that didn't install Fedora this week. What? Christian, thank you for making it.
There, buddy. What are you running?
You are welcome, Christian. Anytime you want to make it, you are welcome.
Yeah.
And
Great, thank you.
Popey, look at Popey. He made it. Popey gets the gold medal this week because he made it the whole episode. He's probably playing Rust over there, but it's
almost certainly.
I'm listening attentively.
Yeah, that's all you're doing. You're just sitting there with your hands in your lap listening. I understand.
In his lap?
What?
Hanging out.
Yes.
Just join the server and kill Popey while.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that'll be the proof in the pudding.
We really got to title this thing, so then we can get out of here. We just gotta come up with a name, and then we're done.
You should call it. You should still listen to this even if you don't like Fedora.
It's a little long.
Fedora's great Quantum Leap Forward.
Yeah, it's also a little long.
Hey, I got an idea. How about this? Not just Fedora, other stuff too.
I like it.
Fedora
Chris
and
really likes
things.
colons too.
Noah's fancy fedora.
Well, so Quantum. Hey, are you current on Star Trek Discovery?
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Gosh.
Wow.
What an episode.
I would say that goes down as some of the best Star Trek ever. That was
It
really
was-
good.
it was really good,
Do you think
yeah.
you agree with that? Is that too bold? I mean, I'm
Gotta
not saying
see-
I'm not saying it's best of both worlds, but I'm saying
Yeah, no. It was a really good episode.
I'm saying it's got to be in the top 15.
I want to wait and see how
Mhm.
how it plays out.
Did you
come
catch
next
that he
episode.
did an override?
Oh yeah.
You did catch
Oh,
that?
yeah, totally.
Oh! All right.
I gotta catch up on Star Trek Continues.
Yeah, that also just had a new
yeah.
episode come out.
I enjoy your title suggestion, Chris. Popey's Puppets.
Mm-hmm. I forget what that was about now, because that
Me
was like
too.
forever ago.
But it doesn't matter.
That was like an hour ago. I love popcorn, you know?
dude, hold on.
I know you.
Are you just salivating over there
you don't
thinking about
understand.
popcorn?
You don't
Nobody.
understand.
Oh, I
You don't even-
understand.
no, you don't know-
Nobody. I don't think
I
you've
don't
actually
think you
talked
do.
about this. I almost want you to save this for user, actually.
Okay, all right. I won't talk
Because
about
this is really good.
Okay,
This is
all right.
this
You
is
know
a-
what I'm gonna say then? I told you already?
Well,
Okay,
no,
all right.
no, but I just know that you have a special kind of crazy when it comes to popcorn.
Yeah,
and
I
it's
have a
where-
special kind of crazy, all right, and it's manifested its way in a whole new way. I won't say anything. I'll save it for
I
user.
love it. Yeah, you have to save it for user because that's. I think that's. I'm actually amazed that I haven't thought to bring this up before on air because you would not believe the lengths that Noah goes to get the popcorn he likes.
Oh, I got one for Noah then that he's gonna love. Doritos flavored popcorn.
No. I've had people try. When I was in Vegas, they had this popcorn stand, and they had like chocolate flavored popcorn and coffee
good.
flavored popcorn. And, yeah, exactly.
I don't
Just
know.
Pop the corn, put some butter on it, put some salt on it, eat it.
I
That's
don't-
all you got to do.
I
That's
don't
all you
know.
gotta do.
Cool Ranch is
I do
kind of
know.
the ultimate flavor.
Oh my gosh.
Cool Ranch, dude.
This is more like the nacho cheese one, but it's something I came up with.
Are you like you get like your own custom mix? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I got my own custom mix.
I gotta respect.
I'll
that.
try anything that's labeled popcorn once. I guess.
I mean, I gotta respect somebody doing their own mix. So you got me on that. But
I just figured out how to kill Noah.
There are movie theaters I go to because they let you mix your own popcorn and like do your own flavorings and stuff. I'm all about that. All right, so we gotta just title this thing that we can get out of here. We're all done for the
It's
day.
difficult, this title.
I know. I agree.
It's elusive. Doesn't listen to authority.
How about
What if we just title it clickbait?
That's kind of funny actually. That's actually pretty good. That's pretty funny.
Brackets.
I wonder how good that would do.
Let's do it.
I kind of want to. Somebody better come up with a better title. Otherwise, we're gonna name this thing clickbait. Clickbait.
If you do name it clickbait, you got to find some way to format it so it kind of like half looks like an accident. Like,
okay, how about
like you said,
Fedora
like, put it in
clickbait?
brackets.
How about Fedora clickbait?
Or we just use the show's tags as the title.
Oh,
that'd be too long. How about Fedora
Fedora
clickbait?
Quantum clickbait.
Mm-hmm. See, now you're trying to
Normally,
work.
what you do is you put
I feel
in
like
brackets,
you're
not
forcing the
clickbait.
quantum in. I feel like you're, dude.
I'm not forcing it. I'm just
No.
highly suggesting it.
he is.
It is quantum day. It is quantum day.
What about just
I was gonna make a George Takei reference.
clickbait, comma, really?
I mean, I do.
You gotta do ellipses then. ... Really.
Clickbait, really? But that's so
Oh, really?
underserved. Like it's a good
O-R-L-Y.
episode. It's like
That's,
it's
I
a
was thinking
special
the same
edition.
thing. It won't say to
right?
anyone that there's a bunch of people, there's a bunch of
That-
guests, we have
yeah.
awesome discussions.
Yeah, but the whole point
Popey's
of
here for the whole damn thing.
the whole point of clickbait is that it draws the people in, and then they can listen to the episode.
It would.
You'll never find out what happens next.
I do love the idea of titling an episode clickbait. That is super funny to me.
Or you can name it. You'll never guess what Fedora did next.
That's also really funny, actually. Okay, so
Fedora
these.
27 makes Firefox fast with this one weird trick.
Yes. Okay, here's the thing. If we don't come up with a better title, we're gonna go with one of these. That's just how
Linux
it-
users hate him.
Yeah. Oh my God, that would probably be a great episode.
Oh, I got it.
Hold on. What?
Cleaning Fedora's pipe wire with quantum vibes.
That's
Again, a little on the long side.
Yeah.
That's
Not
what
only
she
that,
said.
but that's something that we might have to upload to like X videos.
Linux users hate him would be our #1 episode. it would be the number one.
Probably.
Yeah,
probably.
God
or
damn
Linux
it.
users hate this. Linux users hate
Jeez,
him.
that is so frustrating.
You need to save Linux users hate him for when you have Bill Gates on.
Okay, now if anybody publishes a YouTube video with one of those titles, you'll know they were listening to our live stream.
Actually, I think Linux users hate him is good because there are so many voices on this. People can draw their own conclusion on who it is they hate.
I mean, if you want to get really inflammatory, you can do why it's okay to hate freedom.
Actually, should we try it?
No.
Should we do Linux users hate him ... and just see? Should we?
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
try.
You should. Yes, you totally should.
I still really like just clickbait.
I know, but
actually, if you're gonna do, here's the thing: if you want a real clickbaity title, you have to put Linux users hate this guy. ...
That would be really
You could
good.
put "We need to talk" and then just like a.
Oh
a
my
face
God.
No, because here's the thing: Linux users hate this guy. The first thing everyone's gonna go is they're like, "Well, wait, which guy?" Like, even if they don't care about the episode, they're gonna hunt through it to try to find this guy.
See,
but you watch the YouTube analytics. I guarantee you, it's gonna be a ton of people that will go in. They'll skip around for a couple seconds, and then when they can't find it, they'll close out.
You're right.
We need to talk has to be saved for whatever the last episode of LUP is.
Plus, it needs to
that's
have
the
like
breakup.
an emo still of my face or something on there. Like it needs to be me like super sad.
What if we? What
no,
if
no,
we
no. Clickbait, you can use the same thing like 20 times. It's fine.
Oh no, I got it.
What?
I actually do have it this time,
Stallman
though.
gone wild.
Wait a minute. What if we
Use Linux with this one simple trick.
What if we don't use a word at all and we just put an emoji?
You guys are actually making me. We should launch a separate show where we just come up with really fucking crazy titles and we just like not even related to the content. And I bet you'd be our #1 show.
Next week's user is going to be an emoji.
Happening now. Start recording.
Yeah. All right. So right now, Linux users hate this guy.
You just take Firefox, Fedora, and then like you could say popcorn maybe.
Yeah.
And then have all of it in caps with exclamation on each word.
Yeah. Right.
Done.
You know what? You need to have a good really to have a good clickbait title. You need to have verses. You got to have verses.
That really draws people
I'm
in.
just going to overrule all you guys because I'm going to be the one that puts this episode out.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to have the laughing so hard you're crying emoji and nothing else.
Right now, we have Linux users hate
to
this
be
guy.
fair, you should do that. But how about Fedora versus Firefox diss track?
Actually,
So
that's pretty good, dude. That's pretty
You
good.
tend to like 3-word titles.
I
right?
do.
Because they're
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So you want to get Fedora in there because it's release
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
And how about Fedora Emoji Edition? Because they have color emojis.
You're
support.
right.
Yeah.
That is true. We didn't mention
so,
the emojis.
So you're saying he likes 3-word titles. How about I like turtles?
Leroy Jenkins. That's 3 words.
If we had the emoji title, we could then put a bunch of emoji afterwards
I mean,
to try
yes.
to better describe the episode.
None of these.
Fedora Emoji Edition, and then have tacos.
Cute little fox
and
emoji.
None of these are more.
You could use the emoji movie as an example for
this.
the thumbnail.
But see, the thing is none of these are more raw offensive than straight up Linux users hate this guy. ... Because that is so straight up.
Oh, I
clickbait.
didn't realize we were going for offensive.
Well,
No, not offensive. You're going for the most clicks, and if you want the most clicks, sadly, what he's trying to say is that Linux users are going to click. Yeah,
it's really a social experiment because we can all just see how it does on YouTube.
Dude.
It's an experiment. It's here.
All right. Well, we don't have to do it. I'm not saying.
How about how much is it Shuttleworth?
The only way I think.
I love that.
You know, and that title also works because somebody is going to hate every person we've talked about.
That was the
in
joke.
The episode.
Yeah. The only way that works though is we'd have to probably go grab the live stream of this and put this at the end so people understood the origins
What
of
the
the
heck
title.
is happening?
You talked about ARM as well. How about Fedora Arms Weapons?
That's
yeah.
I mean, no, Popey.
Not this week.
If you do use Fedora Emoji Edition, you need to on the cover art have like the thinking emoji.
Wait, but where do the Ubuntu podcast titles come from? Because those titles, they're all
I
over.
have to guess.
Yeah, I think they come after a few beers. That's right. I think you guys have
contribute to your show.
A random number generator.
You have
in
a few
dictionary.
beers and then you pick a random title. Is what I think.
Yeah. We need some sort of machine learning trained on the data set of
Yes.
past titles, so we could just
GPU powered
title generator.
Yeah,
Hey, Chris,
exactly.
did you know the Ask Noah show holds a record for JB titles?
What do you mean?
The
by-
record is fastest title ever chosen for every single episode.
Jeez, give me a break. Come on. Now. Is that true? Because user error.
That is true. It's very true. Do you want to know why?
Well,
Because
user error are picked before we publish. We don't vote on.
Oh,
user.
really? Okay, well, okay, maybe.
Wait, how many episodes do we have? Because you could be right.
Ask Noah has a second award. It's also most boring titles.
Oh!
Damn.
Oh no.
That's probably true. Well, at least I
no.
have.
No,
Actually, really, that's the
no.
only title I get then, because apparently user error could
Hold
tie
on.
for.
Let's
for
see.
shortest.
So user error 34 just went out. And did you know that user error and Ask Noah are currently tied 1-1? Because you did an extra episode. You dirty dog. You did an extra episode 1 point, so you're caught
I did
up.
what now?
You
No,
did.
dude, we started. No, that's
No.
first of
Didn't
all, I've
you
done
do
a
an
number
extra-
of. I've
Well,
done multiple
that's
extra
because-
episodes.
How did he
but
catch
every time
up?
I'm at a
No, no.
conference. But here's the thing: we did started user error like 2 months before, back in like July. Then we
I
did
know.
like 10 episodes.
That's why I don't
and then
understand.
stopped.
User had like a 9-episode head start.
We are still ahead by a week because
No,
we
no, he's
haven't
talking about the number of episodes.
Yes, I know. We haven't released this week's user error
Oh,
yet.
right. 35's
Oh,
already in
yeah,
the
but
can.
Isn't there another
But
one?
here's the thing, I'm
Isn't
gonna
there a Saturday one now?
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
just gonna say I'm about to throw you off because we're doing our War Stories episode on Saturday.
Son of a...
Oh.
Yeah, okay. So you're gonna... All right, so
It's okay, Chris. We'll do a secret episode.
we should, dude.
There you go. Yeah.
We should
Do a
do it with
secret
Noah
episode
on
Sa-
there. We should do it with
Here-
Noah on the secret episode.
Yeah.
Just to
We,
really-
we should just spend
Yeah,
like
there you go.
we should just spend like
Noah should just say, "Do you even podcast, bro?"
Here, yeah, right. Here's the thing. I'm not kidding. I could fill 30 minutes just talking about what we did here today, and
Yeah,
it
we're gonna.
actually worked out. Like,
yeah, it was
worked out.
great.
What
Yeah,
we-
well, we think. We haven't published it yet, so we should wait.
what we should do, Chris.
Yeah, I guess.
is we should just spend one day recording user errors all day and release one for every day of the
I
week.
want to do a holiday edition. I absolutely want to do a
But
holiday
could you imagine
Yeah.
7 days of user error?
That'd be great. I could do it. I could do it. We just do one topic. Just go real
Oh, wait.
deep.
How many days are there in Hanukkah? We could release one for every day of Hanukkah.
we better get working. All right. So what are we gonna do for a title? Anybody?
Asking Noah Fedora.
This episode intentionally left untitled.
Can we call this episode?
Title not chosen inside of brackets.
Can we call this episode "I Have Noah Idea"?
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Here's the thing.
I vote yes for that one.
Neil saves the day. There we go.
Neil.
No, was it Neil? Was that what it was?
was
it
Neil.
Neil?
Here's the thing.
That's
there
not
was
the
a
show,
guy-
though. It's not in the show.
So quick story. Last year, it was either Self or Linux Fest Northwest. There was a guy that kept calling me Noel, and I rolled. I don't care. I know who he's talking to, right? But then it got really, really awkward because we were in front of other people, and one person was calling me Noah, and he was calling me Noel, and he caught on that person was calling me Noah, and then you could tell he couldn't tell if he was wrong or that guy was wrong.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what to do. Like,
You know what the weirdest one for me was?
My name's Steve.
No, it's for me.
You look into his eye. You look at him. Stare right into his eyes with this deep stare. Noah.
That happened to me too. I didn't know what to do either. I was being called Craig. I didn't know what to do.
How do you think I feel? I have 3 different names people call me.
Well, you got
And they're
way
all-
more than 3, dude. You got way more.
What do you
than
mean,
three.
Redbeard?
You got Rikai, Beard, Beardsley, and that's just to begin with.
Oh yeah, and then there's my actual name that
Bearded-
nobody
Bearded
calls
face.
me.
No, yeah, oh yeah, your real name. There's that too. Yeah.
No one uses your real name.
No, let's be honest.
He has a real name?
Yeah, it's Rikai.
And
of
We
course it is.
prefer not to acknowledge
My
that.
family doesn't even call me by my real name.
Yeah. So we still haven't. Speaking of names,
does your family call you Arfizzle?
No.
That's what I would call you.
They do call me by my.
Our
They do
dog.
call me by my initials, RJ.
there you go.
Oh, really?
That's adorable.
But what if we just call it "We Ask Noah"?
But here's the thing. First of all,
Well,
there's so
screw
much
that
cool
guy, right?
things. Yeah, well, okay, but no, for real though. There's the asking Noah anything was like probably the least cool part of that whole episode.
we did get a
I
couple
really
of calls.
wish
That's
we
fun.
were recording that bit just there that you were talking, because you've managed to get "here's the thing" down to 1 syllable. It's like here's the thing. It's like comes out.
It's good,
like
isn't
an
it?
arrow.
It's good.
It's so fast.
I was in Walmart, Popey, and there was a guy, and he was talking. He was talking, and the North Dakotans are really bad about that. They condense everything down, and this guy kept saying "pry," P-R-Y, and what we realized what he was saying was the word probably, but probably got shortened to
Wow.
probably, and then
Boy.
probably, and then eventually just pry. Yeah, I'm pry. It's probably over that. Pry maybe that over there. No, pry that. And I was like, pry. What is pry?
That's actually a very
What are
common.
you
where
doing
I'm
with our
from.
glorious
Yeah.
language?
Yeah, I know. I
Fucking
know.
heathens.
I'm sorry.
I don't know about
reminds me about-
glorious.
Well, there you go. There's our title. You fucking heathens.
Yeah, that'd be good.
How
Right-
about
Damn ungrateful colonists.
how about Pry Linux?
Right now, we're going with Linux users hate this guy. ...
I like it.
All right.
This reminds me about
Just
something
him.
at the start of the episode. Normally, I'll listen to this on downloaded and have it on 1.7 times speed.
Oh, jeez.
And you sounded really slow at the start
bet,
of this.
yeah.
And the intro music sounded way different.
I bet it does. Yeah, the music doesn't really hold up with the fast speed.
No.
I've been doing that recently myself because I'm trying to get through a book and some videos, and so I'm listening to stuff at 1.8 and 1.9 speed, which is like the peak of what I can like keep up with. And it's everything that's musical sounds ridiculous. Any like review that has like a music bed just sounds horrible.
I was actually listening to something. I was like, man, that sounds pretty good. I was like, oh wait, it's super fast. I lowered it back. I was like, oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, that does happen. Sometimes you slow it down. You're like, oh my gosh. I had to get through a book for Unfiltered last week that came out on Tuesday, and we record on Wednesday. And so I had to get through the whole book, and so I just listened to the thing at maximum speed. And then,
Dude, you're a different level though. I remember when we were in Texas and we were editing video, and Chris is scrubbing video, and I just thought we were sitting there waiting for the video to get to the point where he wanted to cut or whatever. And he looks over at me and he's like, "Can you believe that?" And I'm like, "Believe what?" And he's like, "What that guy just said." What are you talking about?
I often edit. I play back in my edit at double speed
It's
too. Yeah.
literally, I'm listening to a.
It's easier for me
Did
to
you hear
focus
that?
because
No, I
you
didn't
have
hear
to
that.
listen more carefully. It's easier for my ADD
Can't
brain.
tune out, right?
Yeah, I have to listen.
I've got another
it's better for me to
clickbait
go
title for us.
1.7.
Yeah.
10 reasons you should listen.
Oh my god.
You should listen to Ubuntu podcast at 1.5 speed and 1.7 speed, and then back to 1 speed, and see if you can tell a difference.
Yeah. Oh, you definitely
Like
can.
the
The
their
music.
accents do not change.
The music
I don't know,
does,
No,
though.
I'm just Popey and Wimpy's accents don't. I don't notice a difference. It's like you're just talking faster now.
Yeah.
Just so you know, we don't have accents.
No, of course not. Right? Of course not.
No, you
We do.
guys.
That's you guys.
We
you,
do.
You guys don't have accents. You just are accidents.
Oh wow!
Ouch!
Judgmental. That's harsh. That's harsh. All right, so we really got to come up with a good title, guys. I'm kind of freaking out because it's like 4:46. I should probably not.
I like the Linux users hate him.
Well, you know,
Yeah,
the
I do
thing-
too.
I think everybody's gonna assume one person. I'd rather not mention his name, and I don't. I mean, okay, all right, fine. We'll go with that.
I'll be that guy.
All right,
You can hate me. That's
Yeah.
fine.
I don't even know who the person is. But
Popey and his brown dong and Russ. I'll tell you what.
I'm a lady.
Yeah, he's this
How
time.
do you know?
With new hair improvements, I would
Yeah,
imagine.
she's beautiful.
Yeah.
new
Yeah.
hair improvements, just new hair at all.
So Popey, you might. So you remember when I was worried that you were getting raided, and I was concerned for your base.
That was fun.
Yeah.
Well, I took my son over there so he could watch it, and Wimpy properly dispatched of all of the invaders and killed them all. So they all had to come back and loot their dead bodies, and they came back naked. And so I was playing with my son, and we were hiding in the bush, and this white, totally naked guy ran up right to the bush because he could see us, and we were crouched and we were eye level, and I had to then tell Dylan there was nudity in this game. I had totally not expected. We were 5 minutes in and we got dong in the face. It was I was like, did not expect that.
Welcome to Russia.
Do you know,
Yes.
it's interesting the graphical detail changes. I have mine running on potato mode on my laptop, and one of the characters I zoomed in with a pair of binoculars at the dong and took a screenshot and pasted it on Discord, and
We all
someone
gotta
else
have
was like,
hobbies.
"Oh, dude, I've got a much better picture of a dong," and did exactly the same thing with binoculars. But because he had his own fantastic quality, it looked like a much better dong.
course.
There's a title for you.
Yes.
A much better dong.
Good old 8K dong textures.
Hey, Christian
Yeah.
has gotten the hell out of here at this point, I noticed.
With the bump mapping.
Yeah, it's a good game, though. He loves it.